Chronicles of the Stellar Mecha War. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 626. Chat. The plan to extract all the 818 and let Lin Fan absorb it and evolve it into a complete form like Apollo was made during the battle. But because of time constraints and the lack of suitable replacement materials, it has been shelved. Now, Gro has run away, leaving behind a lot of extremely hard raw materials. Not only can we build a mecha army, but we can also completely replace the 818 coating on the 4 first generation bionic armors. Time is available, and materials are also available. The matter of letting Xingqian evolve into a complete form has been put on the agenda again. However, there are many things to do now, and time is ample. In addition, Lin Fan's injuries have not yet fully recovered, so this matter can be considered slowly. Lin Fan was stunned for a moment when she heard the news, but she didn't say anything. It was expected. Unhappy, Wu Yusen asked when she saw that she was a little uninterested. Not really. Lin Fan picked up the vermicelli in the bowl and looked at Wu Yusen. It's just that 818 was outside the bionic armor before. Couldn't it form some kind of connection with Xingqian? Wu Yusen nodded. When the emotions were strong, Song Ren and the other 4 could feel Xingqian's emotions. Although, I'm not really sure what I want to say. Lin Fan scratched his hat. I always feel that after 818 is taken out of the bionic armor, the connection is broken. Lin Fan actually doesn't like changes in life. After she accepts something, she will habitually keep it in that state. In her opinion, change will bring uncertainty, and she doesn't like this kind of uncertainty. If Jin Sichen said it, this is a kind of fear. Lin Fan is afraid of the arrival of new things from the bottom of her heart. She can't cope with it, so she simply falls into a fixed comfort zone. Wu Yusen roughly understands, but can't empathize. He picked up a chicken leg for Lin Fan and comforted him. You have to think positively. Lin Fan looked up at him. For example, after you absorb all the 818, you may evolve again. For example, the first generation of armor with a new coating may be more solid than the original. This is not entirely comforting. When Xingqian attacked the aircraft before, he often felt embarrassed by their hard shells. Now all these spoils are on the candidate list of bionic armor materials. Although I don't know how to melt and cast them, it is conceivable that the hardness of the successfully made new mecha may not be lower than that of the one with only 818 coating. Lin Fan also thought of the difficulty at the beginning and nodded. Yeah, that's true. But there is only a little 818 left. I may not evolve again after absorbing it, right? In the previous evolutions, a lot of 818 was absorbed. Now there is only a few fingers left. What can be evolved? Xingqian's form is obviously not much different from Apollo. If Apollo is in the complete form, then Xingqian should be too. When Lin Fan thought of Apollo, she thought of the energy cannon that she couldn't forget and suddenly paused. Do you think I also have that kind of cannon? She stared at Wu Yusen with burning eyes. The reason why I don't have it is because it hasn't evolved completely. There is actually no conclusion on this matter. It's just everyone's guess. Wu Yusen didn't want to tell Lin Fan. It's easy to increase her pressure. On the other hand, if she had such expectations and finally found that there was no energy cannon after absorbing it, it would only increase her disappointment, and there was no need. But Lin Fan had guessed it himself, and at such a close distance, with her big eyes staring at him, he really couldn't lie. There is such a saying, but it's all speculation. Wu Yusen replied with a wry smile. Don't take it too seriously. Whether it exists or not, you are strong enough. We don't need to care about those things. This girl is sometimes so stupid that it makes people speechless, and sometimes she is so sharp that it makes people surprised. It's quite contradictory. Lin Fan got a positive answer, and she felt a little yearning in her heart, but she also felt that Wu Yusen was right. It's still uncertain what it will be. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. It's better to pretend that you don't know. In fact, she hoped that Xingqian also had an energy cannon. When Apollo saved her, she also saw the power of the energy cannon. People's nature is to admire the strong. Lin Fan saw such a powerful weapon, which is also long range, and can make up for her shortcomings, and she was even more itchy in her heart. But she also knew that this thing is not something she can get just by thinking about it. The appearance and weapons of Apollo and Star Mecha are different, which can explain something. Although Antonio turned into a mecha, it is obvious that mechas will have different changes according to different situations. So Apollo uses a sword, and her weapon is a spear. Then the energy cannon he has may not necessarily have it. Why do you think about these things? It's useless to make yourself feel itchy, and there is nothing you can do. Lin Fan suddenly began to regret. Why did she guess this just now? It made her feel anxious, and it was not so easy to let go. Once she was unhappy, she started to eat bitterly again. Look. Wu Yusen knew at a glance that she was holding back with him. If I don't let you know, you will be unhappy. If I'll let you know, you will still be unhappy. Let's see if you will ask nonsense in the future. Lin Fan raised his head and glared at him and continued to slurp and show off the hot and sour noodles. Come on. Tell you something happy. Wu Yusen looked helpless like an old father, and he had to help get food and drinks, even when he was glared at. What can we be happy about now? Lin Fan was in low spirits. Although Gro ran away, Mr. Khan, an indescribable sadness and anger surged into her heart, but it quickly disappeared. She looked at the thin black bracelet on her wrist and thought of Mr. Khan lying in the running water with an old look, and suddenly she couldn't eat anymore. She sat up straight and began to sigh. When Wu Yusen heard her mention Mr. Khan, he didn't know how to comfort him. ZHU Kunjin's bet didn't have a good result. Mr. Khan's road to promotion was not successful either. The process of the 5 decades of heaven and man was advanced by this attack. Now that Mr. Khan is unconscious, no one knows what his physical condition is. But looking at his current state, everyone has a particularly bad premonition in their hearts. Don't worry. Wu Yusen felt that his words were a bit dry, licked his lips, and continued. Wasn't Mr. Khan sent to the female clown to be raised? Soaking in running water should be good for him. Lin Fan held his chin and did not comment. Living water can restore the body, but it has its limits. It's impossible to restore Elder Khan to the state he was in when he just came out of retreat, right? Even if Lin Fan didn't understand, he could imagine the energy required to activate a big move like opening a space rift. How could the spell that almost killed Gro be simple? At best, living water can only repair Elder Khan's current damaged physical state, but the huge energy emitted by the spell cannot be regenerated out of thin air. Unless Elder Khan advances now, no matter the outcome of the 5 decades of heaven and man or the energy consumed, all will be insignificant. But the problem is that Elder Khan's current state is caused by his inability to advance. The two sat opposite each other in silence. Elder Khan saved Langsing from crisis, but who will save him? Chapter 627 Good news. Okay, don't think about it. Wu Yusen handed a glass of iced cola to Lin Fan. The director has given the latest task to all the people in the institute. Let everyone who has nothing to do go to the grocery store. Maybe there will be good news soon. In fact, ZHU Kunjin had put this task on the list long before Lin Fan missed the Chaos Pearl. However, because the situation was not urgent at the time, it was equivalent to a side task. If anyone went in one day, they should pay attention to the situation of the Chaos Pearl and buy it if they found it. In order to wait for this accident, he also specially issued a new credit card with unlimited limit to all the field staff of the Special Affairs Office, regardless of whether they had been to the grocery store or not. The bank was also laughing when it suddenly received this card application business. However, in such a long time, only 2 people had been to the grocery store, but neither of them saw the Chaos Pearl. The latest task was posted as a top-level expedited task. As long as everyone who had nothing to do had to go out and squat in the grocery store, the more people squatted, the greater the chance. In addition to the purchase option, ZHU Kunjin also specifically reminded that, if you didn't see the Chaos Pearl, you must tell the grocery store employee Sunemo to pay special attention. If they appear, help them stay, and don't let others buy them. It's still night, and the field staff who are scattered outside are basically on their way back. After they come back to rest, apart from the urgent tasks, they should go out to the grocery store as soon as possible. Anyone who knows about Kyan Leo's current situation will not refuse. No one wants to see such a powerful person fall, not to mention that he is owed a life-saving grace. Because if it weren't for Kyan Leo's digging, Gro would have been tossed badly, even if the Langsing barrier is opened. Considering that the ugly woman can't move now, Gro is still a big hidden danger. Life-saving grace. What's the point of squatting in a grocery store that appears and disappears mysteriously? The field staff of the Special Affairs Office said that this is not a big deal. Lin Fan was touched by the cold cup and woke up. She can't immerse herself in negative emotions for too long. It's easy to get into trouble. What's more, this meaningless worry, except for bringing trouble to herself, is not helpful to Kyan Leo at all. Speaking of the grocery store, she naturally thought of the Chaos Pearl. The guilt in her heart surged up again. She couldn't help but sigh. If I hadn't put down the Chaos Pearl so rashly before, Mr. Kyan should have survived the crisis by now, right? Lin Fan held the ice cola and felt that her whole body had cooled down. When can you change this habit of taking everything on yourself? Wu Yusen stretched out his index finger and touched her forehead. As you said, if the Chaos Pearl is really obtained, Mr. Kyan will also have to retreat to absorb it. That is not something that can be completed in a short time, and it really cannot be interrupted. How can he run out like yesterday? Everything in the world has a fixed number and a cause and effect. Wu Yusen continued to persuade her. Didn't I say it before? If you didn't get the Chaos Pearl, it means that your fate has not arrived yet. You can't force it. Okay, Lin Fan also knew this problem. Looking at the thin black bracelet on his wrist, the depression in his heart quickly dissipated, and he looked up and said, then I'll go to the grocery store later, too. Okay, whatever you say. I'll go with you. Eat quickly. It's getting cold. Seeing that Lin Fan had regained his spirits, John Woo hurriedly urged him to eat. He couldn't eat all this food anyway. Besides, Lin Fan was still injured and really needed more energy. Lin Fan took 2 big bites, but felt too depressed. He looked at John Woo with a pout. Didn't you just say that you had something happy? Tell me about it. Make me happy too. Well, John Woo scratched his chin. I feel very happy, but you may not be happy after hearing it. Tell me quickly. Lin Fan didn't care about anything else. He just wanted new things to cover up the complicated thoughts in his mind. I heard that the United Alliance is going to be established. John Woo smiled and said this. Lin Fan was still waiting for the next thing, but it was gone. She looked up from her bowl. No more. Wu Yusen nodded. I said you might not be happy after hearing this. Men's happiness seems to be different from women's. Just like women's anger, men usually can't understand it. Lin Fan looked at Wu Yusen's smile and thought about this sentence over and over again, but still didn't understand. The alliance, wasn't it established a long time ago? She asked hesitantly. I remember it for several days. How can this be considered good news? The previous one was temporary. Wu Yusen showed his big white teeth and explained carefully. It was an alliance formed by a temporary group to repel Gro. It was a strategic deployment alliance led by us and P country to fight against Gro. With Gro's retreat, this alliance naturally existed in name only and collapsed. Lin Fan nodded, stuffed a fried dumpling in his mouth, and asked again. Why do we want to form an alliance again? Will old P agree? To say that this grandson of P country always wants to be the boss of Langsing, and others listen to what he says. When we fought the aliens before, there was no other way. We couldn't beat them, so we had to unite and form an alliance. Now that the alien crisis has been resolved, this grandson will probably overturn the stage immediately and continue to dream of being the boss. Besides, their H country's previous policies have been quite peaceful. Why did they suddenly take on such a lousy thing? It's a thankless task. Wu Yusen leaned back and smiled contemptuously. Do you think it's 10 days ago? At that time, his economy and technology were both developed, and no one dared to confront him head on. Now look again, what is left? Wu Yusen was very proud and raised his hand as if he wanted to smoke a cigarette, but when he saw that there was nothing in his hand, he naturally put it down. Lin Fan looked up and thought about the rescue in the Western Hemisphere before. Indeed, there is nothing left. The broken buildings all over the ground also mean that various industries and people's livelihood need to invest a lot of money to restore. Lin Fan didn't study this, but he also knew that war is usually the most labor intensive and costly. Regardless of winning or losing, the overall economy and life of the G country will regress by decades. When E country started fighting, there were many mocking voices in the international community. Now it's good. No one is left behind. Everyone is about the same. Lin Fan doesn't know how much damage P country's science and technology have suffered, but judging from the ground situation, the economic losses must be huge. On the other hand, their H country, because of the special barrier protection, almost no damage to the major cities. After removing the barrier, they can basically continue to live with money and people. As the only intact G country on Langsing, the gap has widened all of a sudden, hasn't it? As mentioned before, those damaged countries have problems with food and clothing for the population, and they must ask H country for help. Although P country is vast and sparsely populated and has Apollo to fight, it has no means of defense and is only slightly better than ordinary small G for various reasons. It is also among those who seek help. In addition, the old man revealed that the starting point of the barrier is H country, and there is also the theory of spiritual energy cultivation. The truth is mixed with lies, and a group of people are directly fooled. So the concept of Langsing United Alliance was proposed. The general meaning is, since it has come to this, let's not differentiate ourselves from each other. In the big family of Langsing, there is no need to distinguish between the G family. You are in me, I'm in you, and it is a world republic. Chapter 628, Angry him to death. How can you be so shameless? Lin Fan was stunned. You still think this is a good thing? This is clearly taking advantage of us. You are helping me under the banner of I'm weak, and I'm right. Isn't this robbery? H country has always been kind and generous, but this kind of assistance method. You don't know this, right? Wu Yusen grinned. This is what the old man wants. Huh. Lin Fan's eyes were blank, indicating that she didn't understand. Wu Yusen saw the girl's dull face and knew that her IQ was stuck again. It's easy to fail the review if you say too much. In short, the old man wants to take this opportunity to divide the power of each G family into bank units and realize the centralization and unification of Langsing without moving a single soldier. Lin Fan was stunned. Although she didn't understand, how could he suddenly talk about the unification of Langsing in just a few words? Although she didn't understand, the direction was very gratifying. She still put down her chopsticks and applauded. It sounds so powerful. Wu Yusen saw her silly face and couldn't help but stand up and stroke her woolen hat. In short, if the United Alliance is formed, it will be a great thing for us. At least we can put in money and effort and hold the power in our hands. Will old P agree? Lin Fan picked up the chopsticks again and ate while chatting. The nature of the P countryman to be the first in everything has long been exposed. Can he accept such a thing? The situation does not wait for anyone. Even if he doesn't want to agree, he has to hold his nose and swallow it. Wu Yusen looked smug and happier than when he bought the baton. Strength is the hard truth, and now the strongest country in Langsing is only our H country. Seeing him laughing happily, Lin Fan also laughed and picked up another plate of steak and put it in front of him. That really can't make him angry to death. Thinking of Ova's face, Lin Fan felt a little gloating. He tortured himself a lot in the dream. Humph. Even if it was a dream, this sin cannot be suffered in vain. This is revenge. Old P is a type who doesn't want to, but has no choice. He will definitely do something again. Wu Yusen finished laughing and counted on his fingers, but no matter what, get them down first, and there are plenty of ways to stop them from struggling later. Just like he said, strength is the hard truth. In the past, the two countries were evenly matched, but now the situation has reversed. P's economy has collapsed and needs H's rescue, and H's is still in its heyday with almost no change. Even though P has Apollo, they also have Star. The two mechas are equally strong, and H's Special Affairs Office has increased the stakes again. Although the three big guys inside are injured, and those who don't listen to the dispatch don't listen to the dispatch, outsiders don't know. What's more, now that the spiritual energy has increased, the abilities of ordinary people with special abilities have been enhanced. This alone has left a large group of ordinary people far away. Even if P has a rebellious heart, if he wants to live now, he can only bow his head and kneel to H. Maybe he still wants to hide first and then compete after he recovers his vitality. But will H country give him a chance? With such an obvious advantage, why not take a big step and leave others further behind? Of course, these cannot be said openly. In secret, everyone just needs to hide and say I'm fine, you are fine, everyone is fine. Lin Fan thought he was simple-minded and could not understand the hypocrisy of the upper class. Anyway, it was enough to know that his family would not suffer any loss. Don't think about those complicated things. Focus on the food in front of you, and the world will be much better. After eating, Lin Fan went back to the room to sleep. She received a lot of information that day, and she tossed and turned for a long time before finally falling asleep. As a result, she was awakened by a call from Lin's father before she was confused for long. Lin Fan didn't want to open her eyes, squinting and clicking to answer. Huge cheers came from the receiver. In the quiet room, Lin Fan thought he had turned on the hands-free. Zio Fan, we won. Lin's father's voice almost broke. After shouting excitedly a few times, he suddenly started to sob. Lin Fan immediately woke up and sat up. Dad? What's wrong with you, Dad? Didn't she miss anything? Didn't they say victory? Why did she suddenly cry? Why are you crying? Lin's mother's voice came. Give it to me. It's fine, auspicious or not. Lin Fan was a little dizzy and a little confused. Gro had been running for almost half a day, and her father just got the news. It seems that there is a phased time plan for the decentralization of information. But no matter what, everyone is cheering. Why is her father crying? Zio Fan, I'm your mother. Lin's mother's loud voice sounded. This time there was no nitpicking and complaining, but she was very happy. Don't pay attention to your father. He is thinking about the victory of the year, and he still thinks he is a soldier. Oh. Lin Fan responded twice, scratched his head, found that there was no hair, and put down his hand again. Then is Dad okay? You are old. Pay attention to your emotions, and don't let his high blood pressure relapse. I know. Lin's mother responded. After instructing Lin's father, she finally started her daily nitpicking again. Hey, kid, we won. Did you know that? I know. Lin Fan yawned. She felt a little sleepy, and finally fell asleep. We beat the aliens away. Did you know that? Lin's mother's voice became shrill, with a sense of participation and honor. It was as if she was also on the scene. I know. Lin Fan yawned again. She was there. How could she not know? Hey, you kid. Such a big happy event. How come you are not happy at all? Lin's mother was unhappy. Have you been doing research for too long and have psychological problems again? How can you have normal emotions? What are you talking about? Lin's father snatched the phone and pushed Lin's mother aside. You are the one with the problem. My daughter is fine. Xiaofan, don't listen to your mother. She just opens her mouth like that. What else can Lin Fan say? She is actually used to it. Don't worry, Dad. I didn't hear anything. She yawned again, trying not to get sleepy. Don't get too excited. I'm afraid you can't handle the high blood pressure again. It's okay. Dad is fine. Dad Lin may have cried for a while, and his voice was finally not as excited as at the beginning. I brought medicine with me. I'm not afraid if my blood pressure is really high. Don't. Lin Fan hurriedly stopped him. The conditions are not good now. If something happens, it will be too late to go to the hospital. You have to control yourself. Don't get too excited. Take care of yourself. Hey. Dad Lin responded, and Mom Lin's voice squeezed in again. What are you talking about? Can you count on your dad? Okay. Stop talking. Dad Lin quickly interrupted. Xiaofan, well, I'll hang up first. It's okay. I'm just happy and want to talk to you. After Lin Fan once again reminded the old couple to take care of their health, the room finally returned to silence. Happy? I should be happy. Lin Fan lay on the bed, looking at the dark room. In the darkness, the sacrificed people, the dead figures, the blood mixed with the shouts, the collapsed buildings, the various insects and flying machines, and the appearance of Mr. Kyan, mixed into a silent movie that was played over and over again. He sighed deeply. Why can't he feel the joy of cheering? Is she sick again? Chapter 629 Finding a grocery store. Lin Fan woke up again, just after lunch. She lay there for a long time, before calling Wu Yusen, and asking him to go to the old street she had mentioned yesterday. The two agreed to meet outside the elevator. When Wu Yusen arrived, Lin Fan had already arrived. He felt something was a little strange, but he didn't say it. Then when he took people to the old street, he felt that Lin Fan was inexplicably excited. It was a kind of, obviously there was not that much fun here, but she acted unusually happy. The old street in the living area is the living area decades ago. Although many old-fashioned shops are preserved, it is not a commercial tourist area, and it is very fast to walk from one end to the other. Lin Fan strolled around, and every time she entered a store, she showed full interest. Even the wreath and funeral supplies store was not spared. If the boss here was not different from the outside, and there were many people who knew that there were special situations in the institute, they were all relatively tolerant. Lin Fan was just looking but not buying, but asking questions. I'm afraid he would be beaten out. In this way, Lin Fan walked out of an old alley with the return ticket price of a 5-star scenic spot. When Wu Yusen felt something was wrong, he couldn't stop her. Stop her from shopping, or stop her from talking? Both were impossible. He secretly sent a message to Jin Sichin, and only after receiving a reply did he feel relieved. Lin Fan continued to dawdle, and in 2 hours she reached the end of the old street in the residential area. Still want to shop? Wu Yusen saw that she was like a headless fly, with a hint of uneasiness in her eyes. He knew that Jin Sichin was right, and tried to please her without leaving any trace. Shall I take you to other places to shop? Or should I go out for a walk? It's just that I haven't been up there for a long time. Let's take a look at the situation up there. Lin Fan was happy at first, but quickly refused. Let's not shop. Let's go to the grocery store. There's no conflict. Wu Yusen pulled the pom-pom on her woolen hat and walked towards the electric car first. You don't think that going to the grocery store means just squatting in one place and waiting for it to appear, right? Isn't it? Lin Fan followed. Wu Yusen smiled back and asked when he saw that she was no longer so excited. So where are you going to squat? The place you took me to last time. Lin Fan responded as a matter of course. I don't know any other places. Then don't go. Wu Yusen knew what she was thinking. I just went to that place a while ago. A year. No. Anyway, it will take a long time before the next appearance. I can't wait even if I go. It's a waste of time. Huh. Lin Fan paused and then caught up with Wu Yusen's footsteps. But didn't I use up my quota? Sun Emo said I also have a chance to enter the store. Don't worry. Wu Yusen saw that his sleeve was pulled and said with a smile, your quota is not used up, but if you want to enter the grocery store, you definitely won't be in the same place as me. In our station, people who can enter the grocery store have different entrances. Ah. Lin Fan was stunned. Then, how are you going to squat? Wu Yusen put his hand on her shoulders, led her forward, and explained so that Lin Fan would not block the way. It's called squatting, but in fact, only those who have been to the grocery store before and have not been there recently can squat there. How do we do that? Lin Fan followed his force and passed by the people in the opposite direction in the narrow alley. Isn't it said that only a small number of people have been to that grocery store? You just bought something and can't go this year. So, isn't Zaohe's quota still there? Shouldn't I squat there? You haven't understood yet. Wu Yusen stretched out his hand and flicked his woolen hat. People like you who have been smuggled in or have not yet entered need to find their own entrance. How to find it? Lin Fan covered his head, which didn't hurt at all, and walked away from him in disgust, fearing that he would be attacked again. It depends on fate. Wu Yusen shrugged and answered. What? Lin Fan suspected that he was fooling himself. It depends on fate. Wu Yusen had already seen the electric car parked on the side of the road and walked over in 3 or 2 steps. I don't know when, which door you open. There will be a grocery store behind. This probability, anyway. Wang Fengfeng and his gang haven't calculated it. Lin Fan automatically sat next to him. Isn't that useless? But they have also counted that most people's entrances are in the old city, in the kind of inconspicuous shops that no one cares about. Zhao He and I belong to this category. Wu Yusen started the car, turned around neatly, and drove towards the elevator. Then let's go to the old city to look for it. Lin Fan was very interested. Miss, do you know how many inconspicuous shops there are in the old city of Gao? Wu Yusen glanced at her. How many? Lin Fan hesitated. Gao has many old historical buildings and cultural blocks, not to mention the various small shops in the ordinary living areas, which are no less than the lice on the monkey's body. As many as cattle hair. Wu Yusen replied indifferently, and this matter is not something you can find by investigating. Otherwise, wouldn't we have already checked it out? In the end, it still depends on fate. Lin Fan sat next to him for a long time without saying a word. Just when Wu Yusen thought she was going to give up, she spoke. Nothing is difficult in the world. How do you know, if you don't try hard? This result was also within Wu Yusen's expectations. He smiled indulgently. Okay, my lady. Let's go climbing. Then let's go out directly now. Get out, get out. Lin Fan shouted with great momentum. Maybe I have incredible luck. Actually, she understood what John Woo said. It's just that her heart was in a mess, and she had to find something to keep herself busy, even if it was just looking for something to do. Besides, what if she was lucky enough to run into him? Right? John Woo naturally couldn't say no to Lin Fan. Jin Sichin also said in the message that she would try to go along with Lin Fan and keep her busy. John Woo had a rough guess about Lin Fan's current mental state. Thinking of the things he had hidden from her, he naturally preferred that she be too busy to ask about other things. When Tyrant came out, the lights were already on. There weren't many people on the road, with an occasional car passing by. Large shopping malls and office buildings were all dark, but almost every house in the residential buildings had its lights on. Have all the people underground been released? Lin Fan was curious. I thought it wouldn't be that soon. It was lifted at noon. The urban area of Gao was basically not affected, so there was no need to wait for logistics to be sorted out. John Woo smiled smugly. It's just that the roads outside the city are not fully open yet. The situation in other cities is different. If it doesn't affect people's lives inside, people underground can come out. Very good. Lin Fan nodded. I can't see any changes from before. It was as if nothing had happened. Lin Fan looked at the lights of thousands of homes outside the car window. Every window was a proof of life. The confusion in his heart seemed to be smoothed out a little. I think we may have made a mistake in coming out today. John Woo saw that she had been staring quietly out the window, with a calm expression on her face, which was more frightening than her excitement just now, and he spoke quickly. What do you mean? Lin Fan's attention was indeed drawn to him, and he turned to ask him. Everyone has just returned home, and they are probably in the process of sorting out. How can there be any shops open? John Woo sighed with a look of misjudgment. What else could you miss? Lin Fan chuckled. Since we are already out, just keep walking around. It would also be good for me to see more. Wu Yusen saw that she had a smile on her lips and a gentle expression, so he did not refute it after all. He drove his Prado and took Lin Fan on the empty streets of Gao, slowly watching the fireworks of the world that she had worked hard to preserve. Chapter 630 Donation. Gao people are still very quick to resume production. When Lin Fan went out with Wu Yusen the next day, breakfast stalls were set up. However, those were all in the old city, with shops in front and houses in the back. It happened to be the place Lin Fan wanted to explore, so she was naturally happy. In Gao City, the old city area is still very large. Just like Wu Yusen said, those inconspicuous small shops are really numerous. But Lin Fan didn't care. She was eager to save money and wanted to find something to do so that she wouldn't be idle and think about things. So even though she knew it was difficult, she still enjoyed it. Wu Yusen accompanied her to explore the shops for 6 consecutive days. He was amazed at Lin Fan's behavior of pushing the door, taking a look, and leaving without shopping. Fortunately, in this environment, there are snack shops along the way, so she didn't go hungry on the way. But after a few days like this, Wu Yusen began to look pale, not to mention the relatively weak Lin Fan. In the first few days, she was exhausted because of her highly concentrated mind and high intensity road walking. As soon as she fell on the bed, she closed her eyes and fell asleep. But as her physical and mental fatigue accumulated, she gradually began to think, is this wrong? And should I continue? In the end, Wu Yusen saw that she was exhausted again and said that he couldn't take it anymore and would take a day off before continuing. He also said that there were so many people in the special affairs office looking for a grocery store, and they didn't just rely on the two of them. They were just two of the small chances, so there was no need to be so nervous. Lin Fan finally got off the donkey and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she was the only one in her department. She suddenly felt very grateful. Otherwise, with her current ability, if she was asked to lead the mobile department, it would be a mess. After eating and drinking, Minister Lin returned to her room and finally had the mood to open her mobile phone to entertain herself. The short videos were either short videos promoting them, or videos taken by people from all over the country, showing the beautiful scenery of their homes. Lin Fan swiped and swiped, and soon saw a donation collection video. It was said that, because of the alien attack, all the spacecraft in the sky crashed, and they had to support other suffering G countries, and the financial pressure of each country was very huge. Without satellite equipment, Langsing will be very passive in the face of alien attacks. I hope that the people with the ability can donate generously, blah blah. Lin Fan thought about it, and the satellites were indeed destroyed. The surviving satellites are far away from Langsing, and the time to fly back is enough to create another one and send it to the sky. Click on the contact and call Wang Fengfeng to ask about the situation. There is a donation, but it's not all because of the satellite. Wang Fengfeng might be busy. The keyboard sound on the other side has not stopped. There are many branches in it, and there are also infrastructure, casualty compensation, international rescue, and so on. Why are you asking this? Let me see if this is true, if it's really a donation. Lin Fan fell on the bed and touched the fine hair that had just grown above his ears. Ah! Wang Fengfeng shouted, and soon the keyboard sound faded away. He walked to another place. Minister Lin is really upright and noble. I didn't think of this. How much do you want to donate? I will donate with you. Donate it all. Lin Fan pinched his earlobe. I have a lot of money in my card, and I have nowhere to use it anyway, so donate it all. You. Wang Fengfeng was out of breath when he heard it. Then I can't afford it. Isn't it that you are going to buy a house with that money? Not buying it for now. Lin Fan turned over and put his head on the edge of the bed. Anyway, I have a place to live now, and it's quite comfortable. Let's focus on the urgent needs above first. Wang Fengfeng had said that Lin Fan was upright and noble before with a teasing tone, but now he was speechless. He covered his forehead with one hand and asked, do you know how much money is in your card? Just donate it all. Wang Fengfeng remembered that when he talked about buying a house last time, there were 40 or 50 million. Adding the salary of the past few months and the various benefits that ZHU Kunjin got for Lin Fan in this fight, the total amount may have reached 9 figures. How much can it be? Lin Fan opened the bank software and counted it. Tens, hundreds, millions. Wang Fengfeng listened to her counting over and over again and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You still want to donate it all now? Lin Fan was silent for a while, flipped her phone, and stopped looking at those tempting numbers, and said bitterly, donated it. Go back to where I came from. Besides, isn't the salary next month coming soon? I won't starve to death. Wang Fengfeng used to only regard Lin Fan as a good partner with the same interests, the same worldview, and they can laugh, eat, and gossip together. Now, he feels that this guy has suddenly become tall and great, to a level that he can hardly reach. You guy. He shook his head, as if he met Lin Fan for the first time, and whispered, I don't have that much money. It's all a token of my appreciation. How can we compare? How about we donate together and put our names together? Wouldn't that mean you've donated that much? Lin Fan suggested. Forget it. I won't take advantage of you. Wang Fengfeng refused mercilessly. Which account do you donate to? Each project has a different account. Is the domestic infrastructure seriously damaged? Didn't they say the damage is not serious? Lin Fan asked as he sat up. How should I put it? Compared with other G countries, it's not serious, but the place is big after all. There is a lot of damage to public transportation, and there are also remote areas. Adding them together, there is still a lot. It's just that the city is basically normal. Wang Fengfeng replied. The donation was originally for people outside of G, hoping to get some money out of them, especially those bad guys. We can't provide free aid, right? Who knows where the people got the news from? We can't say that this is a channel for foreign donations, specifically to fleece foreigners, right? It's too embarrassing. Anyway, the economy is really tight, and spontaneous donations from the public have little impact on their own lives, and can help a little, so the higher-ups didn't stop it. Lin Fan understood after listening. This is a good thing, doesn't it just reflect the strengthening of our national cohesion? Yes, so the higher-ups didn't ask for the cleanup of those in the short video. It is said that the amount is increasing now. Wang Fengfeng smiled. It's rare that our age people can work together on one thing. Lin Fan also smiled. Then do you know the donation account? Send it to me, and I will also participate in such an exciting thing later. You are not participating in an exciting thing. Your thing itself is exciting enough. Wang Fengfeng teased. I'll send it to you later. Lin Fan hesitated for a long time at the last moment to confirm the transfer. This is all money that she could never earn in her entire life, and she hasn't had time to enjoy it yet. But scenes of broken roads and bloody corpses flashed through her mind again. Lin Fan entered the password neatly, and then threw the phone aside. Money is a bastard. You can still make money if you lose it. Instead of lying in her card with a bunch of useless numbers, it is better to go to some meaningful places. Penniless Lin Fan rolled around on the bed, messing up the quilt. She didn't notice that the depression in her heart was slowly decreasing. Chapter 631 Discovery. With Wang Fengfeng's quick mouth, everyone in the Special Affairs Office soon knew that Chief Lin risked his life, disregarded his own safety, went into battle with injuries, and donated all his wealth. This incident raised Lin Fan's image to a level that no one else could match. The positive reaction that followed was that everyone generously donated money, and with the power of the Special Affairs Office alone, the amount of personal donations was raised to a level that all companies combined could not catch up with. The propaganda department thought about it and directly released the list video in the form of an announcement, artificially enlarging and bolding Xingchen's name, accompanied by stepping music, and it immediately went viral. Who is Xingchen? After such a long period of fancy brainwashing, not only everyone in each country knows her, but even international friends can call out her name. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is a new era national idol. Therefore, driven by the role of idols, a new wave of national donations has surged. While the economic pressure of each country has been greatly reduced, the centripetal force of the whole people has once again become one. Zhu Kunjin certainly would not miss this good opportunity, and he boasted to the higher-ups in various ways, while not forgetting to get all kinds of benefits for Lin Fan. After this incident, the image of Xingchen was suddenly pushed to the altar. In comparison, although Apollo also played a considerable role in the Grow battle, his admirers were far less than Xingchen. A large number of people eagerly demanded to know more about Xingchen. Of course, this is a later story, so let's put it aside for now. After Lin Fan woke up from a nap, she brushed her teeth, washed her face, and changed her clothes. When she picked up her phone again, she remembered that she was penniless. She clicked on the transfer information and looked at the balance after the decimal point in her account. She felt it carefully. It seems that she didn't feel as distressed as she imagined. So she relapsed again. Don't care about money? It seems not. The mood is okay. Putting on a woolen hat, with a head full of uncertainty, Lin Fan went to the cafeteria to find food. Once again, the chefs who were moved by Minister Lin's glorious and selfless image took the initiative to come forward to feed him. Lin Fan smiled as she watched them leave. Looking at the 2 tables full of breakfast, she wondered if she should not come to the cafeteria for dinner recently. The TV in the cafeteria was broadcasting real-time news. There were all kinds of heroic propaganda that Lin Fan was tired of seeing, and more reports about the resumption of production and life in various cities in the good order. It had been a week since Grow left. The cities of H country, big and small, lifted the ban at the latest 3 days ago, allowing the refugees to return to normal life. Lin Fan shuttled through the streets of Gao these days, watching the popularity quickly recover within a few days, as if Grow's arrival was just an illusion of her. Of course, she couldn't watch the international news, which was really bleak. In the past, when Lin Fan saw the news about the dire situation of foreigners, especially those unfriendly to H country, she would always sing the same tune with Wang Fengfeng to make fun of them. Now, after experiencing real changes, she is no longer in the mood to make fun of them. All human lives are the same, only once. Flowers, trees, houses, buildings, mountains, rivers. How big is the difference? It seemed that after this incident, a certain boundary in her heart that was originally clear and distinct had become loose. It's over. Is she turning into a saint? Lin Fan was stunned and gradually put the dough in his hand back on the plate. Sainthood is a disease, and this can't go on. She closed her eyes helplessly and covered her face with her clean hand. She thought that many depressing images would flash through her mind again, but unexpectedly, there were fewer, and her emotions were not as uncomfortable as before. Did she successfully heal herself? Lin Fan scratched his head. Here's a notice. On TV, the news anchor reported with a serious face. It has been decided that at 2:30 this afternoon, the food in her mouth suddenly lost its fragrance. Lin Fan sighed, and in her head, the dead memories surged up again and began to attack her. What a broken mood. She felt flustered and uncomfortable and wanted to go directly to Jin Sechin. No, the ugly woman was more important. She took out her mobile phone and swiped it and recently clicked into group 623. The group was silent and the chat history was still a long time ago and no one was talking. Are you so busy? Lin Fan felt flustered and uncomfortable and swiped through the chat history for a long time and finally clicked on the avatar of Li Chunhua, the chatterbox. Lin Fan, what are you busy with recently? Lin Fan, why haven't you said anything recently? Didn't you say that we would go to your house to hold a godparent's wine after everything? When are you going? After waiting for a while, there was no reply, but I felt better in my heart. Lin Fan thought that Li Chunhua might not have her phone with her. He was about to put down his phone, turn that into an appetite, finish the things on the table, and go back to find a movie to watch, when he saw the top row displayed the other party is typing. This means he has seen the message. Lin Fan smiled, took the phone, and waited while eating. As a result, after waiting for more than 10 minutes, the other party was still typing. Is this chatterbox typing an essay for me? Lin Fan was so itchy that he called her directly. Li Chunhua wanted to hang up, but accidentally touched the answer button. He watched Lin Fan's smile disappear little by little with a pounding heart. What's wrong with you? Lin Fan wanted to chat with Li Chunhua, but when he saw his red eyes and a decadent look with a beard, he immediately realized that something was wrong. Are you hurt? She blurted out and leaned her head towards the phone, as if she wanted to get a clear look inside the phone. No, I'm not hurt. I'm fine. Really? Li Chunhua raised her smiling face and even patted her hands and feet to show that what she said was true. Lin Fan was relieved to see that Li Chunhua was indeed fine in the shaking camera, but his smile was too forced. Something must have happened. Could something have happened at home? She thought again. Is it uncle and aunt? Or Myomio? Could it be Hunyu? She couldn't suppress her excitement and stood up. Although she had only seen it once, and it had been a long time. But the harmonious atmosphere of Li Chunhua's family is the beauty in Lin Fan's heart, her longing, and her medicine. It seems that, as long as Li Chunhua's family is fine, she can rely on the warmth of other people's families from time to time to heal herself. This behavior is especially like putting beauty into a photo frame and hanging it on the wall. As long as it is hung all the time, you will feel good when you look at it when you have nothing to do. But now, is this photo frame that represents beauty broken? No, no. Li Chunhua denied again and again. There's nothing wrong at home. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. He saw that Lin Fan's expression changed, and he waved his hands anxiously. Really, everything is fine at home. We were well protected by the barrier at that time. Nothing happened. Lin Fan breathed a sigh of relief and sat down. Lee Chun-hua couldn't lie. If he said no, it really was nothing. Then why do you look like this? She was suddenly stunned, and the panic in her heart surged and spread, numb from the soles of her feet to her throat in an instant. She heard herself asking in a trembling voice. Who is it? You all know who it is. Well, I'm going to stop here. Chapter 632 Song Ren's injury. No, no one. Lee Chun-hua replied guiltily, not daring to look at Lin Fan. Lee Chun-hua. Lin Fan's voice was heavy, you can't lie. Really? His eyes began to wander around, and he hurriedly ran 2 steps. If you don't believe me, ask Gao Fei. Don't come over. As Ji Yu's voice joined, Gao Fei's face flashed. Lin Fan quickly realized something. Where is Song Ren? The boss. Lee Chun-hua didn't know how to answer, and didn't dare to show his head. He seemed to be exposed. What should I do? Song Ren is in trouble. Lin Fan didn't need his answer at this time. She stood up directly. Where is he now? She was panicked, and she got up in a hurry, bumping into the table and the chair. A series of ding-dong noises came from the phone to the other side, and the huge sound also attracted the attention of other people in the cafeteria. Minister Lin, are you okay? Minister Lin, can you stand up? Hurry up and notify Wu Ten. Lin Fan's noisy side made Lee Chun-hua on the other end of the phone stunned. Lin Fan, what happened to you? I didn't hear that Lin Fan was in trouble. Could it be that her previous injury didn't heal? No, she has the ability to heal herself. Song Ren's matter had already overloaded Lee Chun-hua's CPU, and the unknown situation of Lin Fan made his brain stop working. Give it to me. Ji Yu snatched his phone and pushed the stunned Lee Chun-hua to Gao Fei. Excuse me, can anyone say a word over there? What happened to Minister Lin? Someone over there picked up the phone. I don't know what happened. Minister Lin suddenly fell to the ground and seemed unable to get up. We are checking, and notified Wu Te to come over. As he said that, he switched the camera over. Ji Yu looked at a group of people surrounding a figure lying on the ground with a woolen hat on her head. Her limbs seemed to be limp and weak. She tried to stand up several times, but her limbs were shaking so badly that she finally fell to the ground. If they hadn't said it was Lin Fan, Ji Yu would not have believed it at all. In his impression, Lin Fan had always been calm and restrained. Even when facing Lin's mother, he was not so emotional that he was out of control. The people around seemed to want to help her, but Lin Fan made way for them. She doesn't like to interact with strangers. Ji Yu was anxious. Lin Fan guessed that something happened to Captain Song, but he didn't know what happened yet. What should he do? Lin Fan. Wu Yusen's voice finally appeared, and in Ji Yu's ears, it was like the sound of nature. On the phone, everyone made way for Wu Yusen, and Wu Yusen fell to the ground. What's wrong? Why did you fall suddenly? Can't move. Lin Fan raised her head, climbed Wu Yusen's arm with both hands, and whimpered. Wu. Song Ren. If Lee Chun-hua's family is the beautiful photo frame that Lin Fan hung on the wall, then Song Ren is the person who held her hand and led her out of the darkness. The living person who accompanied her. Song Ren is not as talkative as Lee Chun-hua and always looks indifferent and doesn't talk much. But every step Lin Fan took at 800, he was by her side. He patiently helped her recover her sluggish physique bit by bit. Ming Ming was the best Mecha pilot, and he never complained or blamed her when he was sent to accompany her. He even defended her and scolded Lee Chun-hua at the beginning, when Lee Chun-hua was obviously hostile. Lin Fan was used to his silent companionship, the pressure that was always just right, and his silent support for her, no matter what she wanted to do. She was not blind. In the dead of night, she had thought about it. If she were an ordinary girl, she would definitely fall in love with such a handsome Song Ren, right? But she was not an ordinary person. Her identity and uncertainty did not allow her to rashly step into emotions. What's more, there was the past that lasted for several years, which frustrated her and made her hopeless about love. She felt that Song Ren's consideration was distant and restrained. As a mature woman of 38 years old, she had too many things to consider, and naturally she could not be as emotional as when she was young. She shrank back, and the next moment she was moved, she retreated. At first it was because of inferiority, thinking that Song Ren was so good and she was not worthy of him. Later, she was concerned about her own situation. She felt that Song Ren, who was so good, should have a normal life and a beautiful girl to accompany him throughout his life. Later, after accidentally hearing what Shen Bei said, Lin Fan became more aware of her position. They were right. Her emotions fluctuated too easily, and she herself could hardly control them. Instead of worrying about gains and losses and causing trouble to everyone, it was better to never get it and be calm all the time. And she was not the type that Song Ren liked. When she first met Song Ren's ex-girlfriend Li Fang, the two were different from head to toe, from inside to outside. Lin Fan pushed Song Ren to the position of a friend again and again in her heart. Except for herself, no one knew that she had also fantasized about a lifetime of growing old with a handsome guy like a girl. And that dream-like scene disappeared like a bubble as the sun rose. She felt that friends were actually good and stable. Song Ren was always at the top of her friend list, just like John Woo. After returning to the Special Affairs office, Lin Fan experienced some strange events and became more knowledgeable. After the ugly woman incident, she was glad. Fortunately, she didn't fall in love with anyone. Otherwise, if she died someday, wouldn't that just make people sad? She couldn't bear to see the other person sad for her. If the other person wasn't sad, why would she waste that time and energy? It had to be said that Lin Fan and John Woo were really father and daughter without any blood relationship, and their ideas were exactly the same. It could also be due to the extremely high mortality rate of the special case. People who were too close to death always had more concerns than others. In Lin Fan's social options, there were only two emotional options: relatives and friends, and nothing else. Song Ren was injured, which must have happened before Gro's retreat. That was at least 7 days. Lee Chun-hua still behaved like this, proving that the situation was very bad. Even Lin Fan's mind was spinning fast at this time, but she was shaking all over. She didn't even have time to figure out why she had such a big reaction. In her mind, the man who had been holding her hand in front of her and had a reliable back seemed to have sunk into the darkness, leaving her alone in the light. Until John Woo's face tore through the white curtain and appeared, pulling her out of her fantasy. Wu Yusen watched Lin Fan's tears rolling down. She cried like a child. Her whole body was shaking, and she couldn't stand up. She felt indescribably uncomfortable. As expected, Song Ren's matter was not concealed. He sighed in his heart, picked up Lin Fan, and comforted her softly. "It's not what you think. Song Ren is not dead. Don't scare yourself." Lin Fan sniffed hard, blinked her hazy eyes, and tried to see Wu Yusen's face clearly. "He's not dead. Really? Really? When have I ever lied to you?" Wu Yusen put the person on the chair next to him and took the tissue handed over by the person next to him to wipe her face. "Look at you. You are anxious before you even ask clearly, right?" Lin Fan could not forget Lee Chun-hua's haggard appearance and shook his head slowly. "He may not be dead, but he must be seriously injured. Otherwise, you wouldn't have kept it from me." Wu Yusen helped her straighten her crooked hat. "He was injured, but it's not what you think. It's not life-threatening. He can't stand up." "What do you mean can't stand up?" Lin Fan's eyes were filled with tears. "His leg is broken?" John Woo shook his head. "His spinal nerves are broken." Looking at Lin Fan's wide eyes, he added cruelly, "Experts say that current medical methods can't reconnect his nerves. So his limbs and torso can't move anymore, and for the rest of his life, he may just have to lie like this." Although the onlookers didn't know who was talking about, they all sighed after hearing it. Lin Fan's heart ached badly. Song Ren is the king of soldiers. The instructor who once had a pierced knee and worked hard to recover to 800. The top Mecha pilot. Such a proud person. Now he has to lie in bed for the rest of his life. Isn't it more painful than death? Tears fell from his eyes one by one, and Lin Fan grabbed John Woo with tears in his eyes. "Take me to see him. He's not dead. I don't dare to kill him. I'm afraid of you." Oh. Chapter 633 Go see him. ZHU Kunjin agreed to let Lin Fan go to see Song Ren, but he didn't let her transform into a mecha, fearing that her mood would be unstable and something might happen. Lin Fan comforted herself in her heart. Anyway, Song Ren was lying there, and it was impossible for him to be any worse. so Wu Yusen took her all the way to the nearby J airport. She knew that she was able to call a direct plane so quickly because of the light of the stars, and she was once again glad that she was not an ordinary person. As soon as they arrived at the airport, a huge air defense alarm sounded. Wu Yusen stopped the car without saying a word and directly honked the overbearing horn. Then, the sounds of various horns and sirens merged into a huge torrent. Lin Fan's tears began to flow again, not knowing whether it was because of the deceased or Song Ren. Wu Yusen saw her crying silently, stretched out his right hand, and held her hand. Lin Fan clasped her hands tightly, and began to sob. She held Wu Yusen's hand, and pressed it on her forehead. The sound of crying was hidden in the sound of the alarm, light and shallow, and did not attract attention. Wu Yusen did not stare at her all the time, but turned his head to look forward, and his other hand firmly pressed the car horn. The sound gradually died down, and Wu Yusen let go of the speaker, but his other hand remained still. Lin Fan held it so hard that the back of his hand turned white, but he seemed to be unaware of it. Why is this happening? He heard Lin Fan asking with a sob. Is it because we are not strong enough? Wu Yusen turned around and touched his woolen hat that was drooping. It's okay. Everything will be fine. We will become stronger. The soft and gentle voice comforted Lin Fan's anxiety very well. She let go of Wu Yusen's hand embarrassedly and found that his hands were stained with a lot of water stains. I'm sorry. She hurriedly wiped it with both hands and hurriedly tried to find a tissue to help him wipe it clean. When she turned her head, the tissue in Wu Yusen's hand had already fallen on her face. You don't have to say sorry to me forever. Lin Fan saw that he was looking at her intently, as if her face was more important than her domineering. For a moment, her thoughts turned rapidly, and she quickly lowered her eyes to avoid it. Wu Yusen seemed to have noticed nothing, and focused on helping her wipe her face and hands, and finally his own hands. Are you feeling better? He handed a bottle of water to Lin Fan, who was hanging her head. Yeah. Lin Fan's voice was buzzing, staring at the transparent bottle in her hand in a daze, feeling powerless. Drink some water. We'll go to the terminal later, okay? Wu Yusen didn't look at her, but naturally reached out and rubbed the back of her head. Lin Fan opened the water, and the bottle cap had been twisted open by Wu Yusen. She felt like crying again, and quickly raised her head. After drinking half a bottle of water, her heart finally calmed down. Wiped her mouth. Let's go. When it was 8 o'clock, it was already evening. Ji-yu and Gao Fei had received the news long ago and were waiting downstairs to pick people up. Lin Fan looked at the two from beginning to end first, and when he saw that they were not injured, he glared at them fiercely and got on the shuttle bus without saying a word. The two did not dare to say anything, nodded to Wu Yusen, and drove silently to lead the way. Lin Fan was very familiar with the medical department, where she had lived for a long time. Thinking of herself lying in bed before, Song Ren had been with her. Now she is fine, but Song Ren has to lie still. This kind of turn of events is not what Lin Fan wants. She ran to the door of Song Ren's ward eagerly, but hesitated when she stretched out her hand to push the door. What should she say when she sees him? Don't be sad. You will be fine. Lin Fan's heart was in a mess again. She slowly put down her hand and carefully peeked through the transparent glass on the door. There was no one else in the ward. Song Ren lay quietly, motionless. From the outside, it was impossible to tell whether he was awake or asleep. The whole ward looked like dead. Lin Fan didn't dare to look at it anymore, and covered her mouth and stepped aside. She wanted to cry again, but felt that crying would not solve the problem. She just covered her mouth to control her emotions. After a while, she let go of her hand, took a deep breath, and walked to the doctor's office. Wu Yusen had been quietly accompanying her without saying anything. When Lin Fan left, he also took the opportunity to take a look. That was not the Song Ren he knew. The man who had been on equal terms with him, now lying in bed unable to move. He lowered his eyes and smiled, wondering if he would also have such a day. In the doctor's office, Lin Fan saw Dr. Zhao and Wu Yi, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Dr. Zhao was still the same, not much changed, but he looked very tired. Wu Yi had lost weight, her eyes were a little red, and she hugged Lin Fan as soon as she saw him, but she didn't say anything. Lin Fan patted her back with his backhand, as if he was patting himself, and comforted her. It's okay. Everything will be fine. Wu Yusen brought a chair to Lin Fan, pressed her to sit down, and then began to ask about Song Ren's condition. Lin Fan looked at the film on the light box. Even though he knew nothing about medicine, he could see that the section of the cervical vertebra below the skull was broken. That was Song Ren's cervical vertebra. We replaced his artificial titanium skeleton with a bone, and the cervical vertebra was repaired, but the nerve damage was particularly severe. It was barely connected, and there was no practical effect. After a lot of professional terms, the information Lin Fan received was no different from what Wu Yusen said before. The spinal nerves were broken, and the connection was broken and useless, so he couldn't move below the neck. Maybe because he cried so hard at the airport, Lin Fan's mood was much more stable. Is there no other way? She asked calmly. Really? Dr. Zhao replied. In fact, when he was first sent back, he almost didn't make it. Chief CUI even sent 112 to the operating room, but it was useless. They had previously speculated whether Lin Fan's mutation would require a life or death situation, and the contact of blood hulity with 818 or 112 would work. But since it was a matter of life and death, no one dared to bet on this possibility. Just when Song Ren was in danger, CUI Yan made a prompt decision, with the idea of trying everything possible. It would be best if he could save his life and regenerate a biological armor. If not, there would be no loss anyway. But the result did not change in the direction everyone thought. 112 did not react to the dying Song Ren, and it was useless. Even if Song Ren's blood was smeared everywhere, there must be some opportunity in the middle that they didn't know about. Fortunately, Song Ren had a strong will and survived life and death, but the ending did not make everyone very happy. Just as Lin Fan thought, what's the difference between Song Ren lying on the bed and being dead? At least he himself would not accept this result. After waking up, everyone kept it from him, but he seemed to know it somehow, and he was extremely depressed. Even Dr. Zhao, an old doctor who was used to seeing life and death, couldn't bear it. Song Ren's survival didn't seem to bring much joy to 800. But for Lin Fan, it's always a good thing to be alive. At least, there is still hope and a way out. Can I go to the ugly woman to soak in the running water? She turned to Wu Yusen and asked. It works well, you know. After she soaked in the running water several times, the obvious pain on the surface of her body disappeared. Wu Yusen also soaked in it and knew the effect was good. Including Mr. Khan, who is still in the pool. They can all prove the effectiveness of the running water. Unexpectedly, the attending doctor shook his head. We have studied it and found that the effect of the running water is mainly for external healing. Nerve damage is similar to brain damage. It is not just ordinary surface healing. Moreover, the nerves are still inside. I heard that there is a way to insert a tube into the stomach to deliver medicine. Can we expose his nerves to the running water while minimizing the damage? Lin Fan suddenly interrupted. It is possible. Let's try it. Lin Fan stood up and looked at the attending doctor without giving any room for explanation. Since you are helpless, let us try it. These 2 chapters are a little emotional. I don't know if they are well written. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 634. His heart. Song Ren's condition was not suitable for moving. Fortunately, the Special Affairs Office had stored a lot of fresh water before, so it was not a problem to transport it by air. Lin Fan volunteered to go back to get it, but was stopped by Wu Yusen. Don't worry everyone, he said. It will only take 3 or 4 hours for the plane to transport it. Lin Fan turned around and found that everyone she knew was looking at her worriedly. Of course, her injury was also synchronized to 623, and Dr. Zhao and the others naturally knew about it. Everyone knew about her super healing ability, but they also knew that such a serious injury could not be fully recovered in such a short time, and there must be a loss inside. Okay. Lin Fan has always found it difficult to refuse the concern of others, and remembered the lesson that you can't be anxious when encountering things, so he agreed. The waiting time is always long. Lin Fan couldn't help it and decided to go see Song Ren. Song Ren heard footsteps that were different from the past and opened his eyes alertly and saw Lin Fan unexpectedly. He immediately tilted his head and closed his eyes, but what he just saw was clearly imprinted in his mind. Lin Fan's eyes were red and full of worry. She was wearing a red woolen hat and her face looked good. Her mouth was slightly open, as if she was about to speak. Very good, she's fine. Song Ren was excited, but soon became depressed again. He had been trying to catch up with Lin Fan, wanting to get closer to her. But now, it seemed, it would never be possible. As a former special operations soldier, Song Ren's understanding of the human body structure was not much worse than that of the doctor. When he just woke up, he didn't realize anything. Until the anesthetic wore off, he only felt the pain from his neck, and the rest of his body seemed to be completely disconnected. He had some guesses in his mind, but he was not completely sure. The doctor would naturally not tell him the truth in this situation, but other people obviously did not have the potential to be actors, and Song Ren could easily see the clues from their faces. Combined with the parts of his own injuries, the truth was obvious. It would be difficult for a healthy person to suddenly lose the ability to move, let alone Song Ren, who was proud of his body. Although Song Ren was calm, he felt desperate about the current situation. His future no longer had any meaning except wasting food. But he also knew that life was precious, and his family and friends cared about him very much, so he couldn't commit suicide casually. Song Ren went with the flow with a very calm attitude. He did not refuse any treatment measures, even if he knew it was meaningless, but he did not have a trace of positive will, and he rarely spoke. Even the silly Lee Chun-ho felt his negativity and said a lot of comforting words. But the more he said, the more mistakes he made. Song Ren was more certain of his current situation. Seeing Lin Fan now was beyond his expectations, but also within his expectations. His first reaction was to worry about Lin Fan, but he quickly realized that he had long lost that qualification. I'm glad she's okay. Song Ren closed his eyes with a sour satisfaction in his heart. It seemed that, as long as he didn't look, Lin Fan would not see how bad he was now. He was about to comfort himself in such a self-deceiving way, and Song Ren sneered at himself. If I had known earlier. He regretted bitterly, but found that, if it happened again, he would still rush out. He is a warrior, destined to be born to defend. There is no other choice. I have lost the qualification to stand beside her. Song Ren was sad, but not resentful. He just hoped that Lin Fan would leave as soon as possible after reading it. Song Ren's avoidance was obvious. As soon as he closed his eyes, Lin Fan swallowed the words in his throat. The two of them were motionless, and the air in the room seemed to be still. Lin Fan looked at Song Ren quietly, his eyes slowly moving from his face to his body. His body was still tall and muscular, and it was completely impossible to tell that he could no longer move. Thinking that one day in the future, this strong body would also atrophy, Lin Fan walked to the bed. She lifted the quilt, revealing Song Ren's arm, and pressed it for some reason. The arm without muscle tone felt soft to the touch, unlike before, which always felt hard to the touch, but motionless. Lin Fan's heart ached, and she held his hand, which was dry and warm, but there was no reaction at all. She remembered the time when Song Ren helped her massage, and couldn't help but press his arm. Lin Fan had never learned massage, so she needed instinctively. When she looked up, Song Ren's face was calm, and he felt nothing. She turned her back and continued her movements, not daring to let Song Ren see her sad expression, and naturally missed the eyes that opened behind her. Song Ren looked at Lin Fan's back calmly. That silly girl was still so cute. Did she think that massaging would help? Naive. Song Ren's mouth curled up slightly, and he saw Wu Yusen outside the door from the corner of his eye. Wu Yusen stood outside the door for an unknown period of time. Seeing Song Ren looking over, he turned around and left quietly. Song Ren watched his flexible back disappear behind the door, and his eyes turned back to Lin Fan. Forget it, let him enjoy this closeness for the last time. He squinted his eyes, carefully avoiding Lin Fan's occasional inquiries, but greedily staring at her when she turned her back and lowered her head. Lin Fan didn't know what he was insisting on. After massaging her hands, she massaged her feet, and then the other hand. After massaging a circle, she took a stool and sat down beside the bed, then held Song Ren's hand and continued to massage. Back then, when she was stabbed by the cuckold, Song Ren had been accompanying her by the bed. Song Ren didn't feel anything physically, but he seemed to feel this unprofessional massage in his heart. He thought it was over, but he didn't expect Lin Fan to sit down. Go away, Song Ren ordered coldly. He was afraid that, if Lin Fan stayed for too long, he would lose control and be greedy for this unrealistic warmth. He was already useless. Lin Fan was stunned. Song Ren's eyes were still closed, his expression was calm, his brows were wrinkled, and he seemed to be very uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable with the massage. Lin Fan bit his lower lip with his teeth and responded softly. He put Song Ren's hand away, tucked in the quilt for him, stared at his face for a few seconds, turned around and walked out. Song Ren shouted in his heart, "Let it go, let it go," but when he heard her footsteps leaving, he couldn't help but open his eyes to look. His eyes followed Lin Fan until the door was gently closed and he could no longer see anything. He turned his head and closed his eyes. A light laugh rang out in the room, almost imperceptible, and soon returned to silence. Lin Fan looked around, but didn't see Li Chunhua, but saw Gao Fei. Sister Lin. He seemed to be waiting for her. Brother Li knew he made a mistake. He didn't dare to come to see you. Lin Fan shook her head. Don't blame him. How did Song Ren get injured? I heard from them that he was exhausted at that time and was about to get off the plane. A flying vehicle raided the ground logistics. He was not strong enough, so he used his back to block the opponent, but he didn't guard against the spikes that stretched out from the back of his neck. Gao Fei rubbed his hands. He couldn't tell whether Song Ren's insistence was right or wrong. If he hadn't pushed forward, he should have been able to survive, but there might not be many people in the logistics team who survived. Then the black giant beast happened to pass by and swallowed all those bastards, but the captain was already injured. Lin Fan nodded, and a feeling of depression that was difficult to vent rose in her heart. She looked around. Where is John Woo? Are there any fans of Song Ren? Don't hit me, at least he wasn't written to be killed. Chapter 635, Rooftop Chat. Wu Yusen was smoking on the rooftop. When he heard footsteps behind him, he turned around and saw that it was Lin Fan. He quickly threw the cigarette under his feet and stomped it out. Why are you here? I came to see you. Lin Fan was also a little surprised to see Wu Yusen smoking. She had never seen Wu Yusen smoking, and she had never even smelled cigarettes on him. She thought he didn't smoke. But when she thought about it, it seemed that no one around her smoked except the director. Every time the director saw her in the office, he would turn on the ventilation fan and never smoked in front of her. So, it was everyone's consideration, right? Lin Fan walked to Wu Yusen's side, leaned her back against the concrete fence, looked at the cigarette holder on the ground, and suddenly asked for some unknown reason. Do you have a cigarette? Wu Yusen raised his eyebrows, and seeing that Lin Fan didn't seem to be joking, he took out a cigarette from his pocket and shook out a cigarette. Lin Fan took it out casually, lit it with the lighter that Wu Yusen handed over, and took a deep breath. Ahem. Wu Yusen quickly patted her back. Lin Fan coughed for a while, finally stood up straight, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Your cigarette is too strong. Wu Yusen said the name of the cigarette, and looked at her curiously. Lin Fan's smoking posture showed that she was not an old smoker, but she was not a novice who smoked for the first time. There was no fancy movement between her fingers holding the cigarette. Unlike some women smoking, they looked graceful, beautiful, and attractive, but not rude. It was just a very natural and comfortable posture. I didn't expect that I would smoke. Lin Fan glanced at him and faced the outside of the building. The greenery around the medical department is also very good. Even in winter, you can see a lot of green. It's just that the light is not good at night, and you can only see high and low black shadows. Well, Wu Yusen also turned around with her. It's not written in the information. I just know that you hate the smell of cigarettes. The smoke was blown across Wu Yusen's face by the wind. He smelled the familiar smell of cigarettes, but it didn't come out of his mouth, which felt a little strange. He reached into his pocket, took out a candy, and threw it into his mouth. Lin Fan thought he would light up a cigarette and make friends with her. Seeing him take out the candy he often gave her, her eyelids drooped, and she looked at the tree in the distance. I hate the smell of cigarettes. She took another small puff, held it in her mouth for a while, and spit it out. When I was young, my father always liked to smoke. He also brought his business friends to our house, drinking and smoking. She recalled lightly, I don't like the smell. I think it's very choking, but I'm curious why they are so happy. Is it some kind of delicacy? Wu Yusen didn't expect Lin Fan to suddenly talk to him about the past. The two of them have always been spontaneous in their relationship, doing whatever they feel comfortable with, and often chatting about trivial matters in life, but Lin Fan has never talked to him about such topics. Her past seems to have been locked in her heart, except for cooperating to talk about it when Jin Sichin was receiving treatment. She never seems to mention it to other people. Now, Lin Fan has opened her heart to him. No matter what the reason is, Wu Yusen is always happy. So you want to try this delicacy? He smiled at Lin Fan. There was no obvious expression on her face, neither sad nor happy. She looked a bit like an ugly woman. Not at first. Lin Fan watched the fire of the cigarette, but burned back little by little. After I went to college, a classmate in the same dormitory always smoked ladies' cigarettes. She looked strangely pretty. At that time, I was really curious about what it felt like to attract both men and women. So I also tried smoking and drinking. How did it feel? Wu Yusen knew that Lin Fan was sensitive to alcohol and never drank, so smoking was naturally just a shallow attempt. Not very good, very uncomfortable. Lin Fan smiled and flicked the ash, and took another shallow puff. I don't understand why so many people like to smoke and drink, obviously not feeling well. Lin Fan felt dizzy when she drank alcohol. Even if it was just a drink with a little alcohol, she still felt uncomfortable after drinking it. Her mouth was bitter, her head was still dizzy, and the whole person was as dull as a fool. She never drank alcohol again. I smoked, but my mouth tasted bitter and choking. But the girl in the dormitory said that it was like this at the beginning, and it would get better after smoking more. So I kept smoking, maybe one cigarette, but I didn't feel any happiness. Instead, I felt unhappy, like I was torturing myself. So I never smoked again. Wu Yusen smiled. So that's what Lin Fan would do. The reason why there is no record is that the time was too short, and it didn't become a habit. It's because your taste buds are too sensitive, and you are too picky about taste. Wu Yusen replied, so you like sweet things, and don't like bitter things. Really? Lin Fan sneered. My mother also said that I couldn't endure hardships since I was a child, and I definitely can't endure hardships when I grow up. Wu Yusen turned to look at her. If Lin Fan can't endure hardships, then there are few people in the world who can endure hardships. I always thought that I didn't like to suffer because I felt bitter in my heart when I was a child. Lin Fan continued to say calmly, I seemed to lack everything when I was a child, so I felt particularly poor. Lin Fan's family conditions were not bad when he was a child. At least Lin's mother would not let her child starve. Wu Yusen knew that she was talking about psychological feelings, so he didn't say anything and listened silently. So I especially cherish the things I have. Lin Fan said again, doesn't Wang Fengfeng always laugh at me for being stingy? In fact, I don't care about the value of those things. It's just that, when I see those things, I think of the memories that come with them, when I got them, what happened at that time. Those are the things I feel hard to give up. Wu Yusen thought of the huge salary that Lin Fan had just donated, and knew that what she said was true. He had never thought about the reason why Lin Fan was nostalgic from this perspective, and only thought that she was thrifty. So many times, I'm afraid of losing. Lin Fan whispered, if I'm destined to lose, then I would rather never have gotten it. Wu Yusen could understand her thoughts. To some extent, they are the same kind of people. Before you came to find me, I saved a stray cat. I couldn't let it go after I saw it, and I spent a lot of energy to save it, but it died in the end. Lin Fan shook the ash off the cigarette and put the cigarette to his lips. So later, I didn't want to go out, and I didn't want to encounter such a thing again. Wu Yusen knew about this, but he also knew that Lin Fan was not talking about the stray cat. Last year during the Chinese New Year, I went back to that grove, and all the stray cats in it were gone. I was actually very sad at the time, but I thought it was good that way. She exhaled a puff of smoke and continued. Grandma Pei said that the kittens were all at her home. I actually wanted to go and see, but I didn't go. I try to downplay the contact with my family. As long as it's not close, the feelings will seem to fade. If that day comes, I won't be too sad. I didn't expect that Grow would appear and someone as powerful as Song Ren would fall. I felt very sad rationally, but I didn't have too many emotions in my heart. Lin Fan glanced at the thin bracelet on his wrist. I happened to see you smoking, so I wanted to make myself sad. After she finished speaking, she took another big puff of cigarette, choking herself and coughing again. Wu Yusen understood. Her negative emotions were absorbed by the bracelet. Her reason and emotions were separated. She needed to vent. He patted her back gently. You are sad now. Do you feel better? Lin Fan smiled with tears in her eyes. No. Wu Yusen took her cigarette and flicked it aside. Then don't smoke it. Lin Fan did not resist and let him do it. Turning back, she leaned her arms on the fence and looked up at the sky. You know what? I can't deal with the emotions brought by losing you. Whether it's Song Ren, you, or other people I know, I can't stand it. Her voice was very soft, and it was distressing to hear. If I have a choice, I hope to die before you. Don't talk nonsense. Wu Yusen hugged Lin Fan and held her head in his arms. You are a person with self-healing ability. How can you die? Lin Fan leaned against his shoulder and closed her eyes. Yes, it is difficult for her to die, so she will most likely watch them leave one by one. If only I had never met Song Ren, I wouldn't be sad, whether he was alive or dead. Don't think about it, we will all be fine. Wu Yusen patted her back, as if coaxing a child. Isn't the running water coming soon? Song Ren will be fine. Yeah. Lin Fan's voice was buried in his clothes, buzzing. I think he will be fine too. Wu Yusen wanted to say more, but Lin Fan's phone rang. It was Jiu calling, saying that he was looking for Lin Fan to thank Bisheng. You go first. Wu Yusen took out a piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to Lin Fan, but she refused. No, I'm not crying. What about you? Don't you want to go down with me? I'll stay for a while and smoke a cigarette. Wu Yusen smiled at her. Okay, you go in early. It's cold outside. Lin Fan said nothing and turned away. Wu Yusen paced a few steps, picked up the half-smoked cigarette that he had just taken out of Lin Fan's hand and thrown on the ground, flicked the ash, and put it in his mouth. The lighter lit up, and the cigarette butt lit up again. Sure enough, I have to smoke it myself to get the full flavor. He strolled to the edge of the rooftop with a cigarette in his mouth, leaning on his arm and looking down. Soon, Lin Fan ran out of the gate and got into Jiu's car and left. On the rooftop, the red spark flickered for a long time. Okay, let's stop writing about the feelings here. Do you think I have a talent for romance? Chapter 636 New Mecha Design. It has only been half a month since the last time I came to the underground fortress, but Lin Fan feels that many things are different. For example, the first generation armors that used to be well equipped have now all had their shells removed, exposing the internal machinery and wires. The 4 identical cores. From the appearance, it is impossible to tell whose mecha they are. Oh no, it can still be distinguished. The one with obvious damage on the neck should be Fu Guang. Thinking of Fu Guang, I thought of Song Ren. Lin Fan was sad for a moment, but was quickly interrupted by the people rushing over. The people in 623 haven't seen Lin Fan for a long time. Last time, the situation was urgent, and most people only nodded and greeted him, and didn't have time to say more. Now that the war is over, Xingchen has performed outstandingly this time, almost like a savior hero. Everyone in 623 is proud of it. When they saw him this time, they all came up to chat. Even though everyone was thinking about the work in their hands, they left without saying a few words. It took about 10 minutes for the people around Lin Fan to disperse. Kid, you've worked hard. Zibisheng had been waiting behind the crowd, looking at Lin Fan kindly like an old grandfather. Not hard. Lin Fan smiled shyly. Deputy Director Z, it's so late, you haven't rested yet? I'll go. Zibisheng was old after all, and he was a little trembling after standing for a long time. Lin Fan wanted to lend a hand, but the moment he thought of it, he put it down again. The deputy director insisted on waiting for you to come, saying that he would be relieved only when he saw with his own eyes that you were okay, and he refused to listen to our persuasion. Yu Guangli smiled and took the old man's arm and took him aside. Look, isn't he fine? Lin Fan. Zhang Zhaoji waved to her slightly beside him, with a happy face of reunion after a long separation. Ke Wenbin stood next to him, also looking at her and smiling slightly. Why don't I see Zhajing? Lin Fan looked around and asked. He went to Pangu Cave. Zhang Zhaoji came over and said. He improved Pangu's control system. He went to test it this morning. It should not be finished yet. Lin Fan nodded and followed the others into the conference room. Xiaolin. Zibishan breathed a sigh of relief after sitting down. Have you visited Captain Song? Yeah. Lin Fan lowered his eyes and his expression faded. This child. Zibishan supported his legs and paused for a long time before continuing. Although it doesn't look good now, at least his life is saved. Wait a little longer. There must be a way. Zibishan has always believed in science and has a rigorous style. When the doctor clearly said that it was not possible, he still said such words, not necessarily to comfort Lin Fan, but also because he couldn't bear to see Song Ren end up like this. Yeah, there will be a way. Lin Fan nodded loudly. Seeing that the atmosphere was depressing, Yu Guangli quickly changed the subject. Lin Fan, I called you here so late because I want to confirm something with you in person, but I don't know when you will leave, so I was a little hasty. Did I bother you? No, I should stay here for a few days. Lin Fan replied, and then added, if it's not too much trouble. What are you talking about? Your room has been kept for you, and someone cleans it every now and then. Yu Guangli pretended to blame, and then said, the deputy director has been worried about you and wants to see you with his own eyes. On the other hand, I want to tell you that the 818 coating on the bionic armor has been completely extracted and can be used for your upgrade at any time. Ke Wenbin took out a small container, which was a small ball of familiar substance, about half the size of Lin Fan's fist. The remaining 818 is all here. He put the container on the table and pushed it towards Lin Fan. Lin Fan took a look and didn't move. If you want to upgrade, it may not be possible now. The specific time will be notified by the institute. I have to trouble you to keep this first. The skin color on her back has not yet completely merged, and the pink boundary is particularly obvious. Because of this, ZHU Kunjin refused to let her transform easily, fearing that it would aggravate her internal injuries. Lin Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he really enjoyed the concern. It should be. Originally, this matter was supposed to be communicated with ZHU Kunjin, but since you are here, I will tell you together. Zibishan continued, we are just guessing about the upgrade. It may not be true, so don't feel too burdened. Lin Fan nodded. There is one more thing. Yu Guangli continued. This time, many of the aliens' equipment can be recycled into new materials. Have you heard about the plan to build a Mecha army? I have heard of it. Lin Fan replied. Previously, the bionic armor has always been imitated, based on the stars. After Apollo appeared, it opened up more ideas for us. It happened that the new materials were also available, so we thought about redesigning the appearance of the Mecha, especially the bionic armor, adding different functions, and using different shapes to distinguish the categories. Lin Fan nodded as he listened. The star shape is just a prototype. For 623, which was limited in the development of humanoid mechas at the beginning, it was the beginning of an attempt. Later, they changed the bionic armor several times for functionality, so the latest bionic armor is not as similar to Xingqian as it was at the beginning. They dare not make too many changes to the shape, because of various reasons such as structural mechanics and mechanical power systems. It is not enough to simply change the appearance. Simply affecting the control performance for a different shape is putting the cart before the horse, and losing more than the gain. In addition, there is a serious lack of materials and the cost of trial and error is high. So before everything is uncertain, 623 decided to keep the basic operation. But the appearance of Apollo made everyone realize that there is still more room for adjustment in humanoid mecha. Zhang Zhaoji was so excited that inspiration burst out on the spot and drew countless design drawings, but they only stayed at the conceptual level. Until the materials were complete, not only could the bionic armor at hand be transformed, but also rich enough to build a Mecha Army 623, who got the good news, started to move again. Before the official casting, they had to make a lot of models, to try little by little, and the premise of the attempt was Zhang Zhaoji's design drawings. So, I also want you to help check if there are any obvious inappropriateness in his design, to avoid wasting resources later. Yu Guangli said. Lin Fan was stunned. Although I'm a design related person, let me see if the color matching and shape are okay, but the mecha design, I'm not good at it. Let her say, in the end it is just good looking or not. But mechas involve too many things, and whether they look good or not is the last additional option. After all, it is a humanoid weapon, and function is the most important. She doesn't want her words to affect the final result. A layman leading the experts? No way. Seeing Lin Fan shaking his head, Zibishan smiled and comforted her. Don't worry, it's just for reference. After all, their design is just a fantasy. You are the one who is most familiar with mecha control. You are capable, but don't know it. Many opinions are precious to us. Just say it, we will listen carefully. The creation of a new mecha must be the result of the joint efforts of countless people. Everyone works together, and no one's words will be final. Don't worry. What are young people afraid of? Aren't they afraid of taking responsibility? Zibishan understood, so he said it in a separate way. You are just a person who makes suggestions. We still need to discuss whether to adopt them or not, so don't feel burdened. After listening to this, Lin Fan's pressure was relieved. Okay, since you all don't mind, I will show my ugliness. Where is the design drawing? Do you want to see it now? Here. Zhang Zhaoji finally waited for him to speak and squeezed next to Lin Fan with a tablet. Zhang Zhaoji, who was squatting next to the chair, looked like a puppy waiting for praise, looking at her with two big black eyes. If he had a tail, it would be wagging it now. Lin Fan was startled by his enthusiasm, speechlessly took the tablet in his hand and began to look at the drawings. Chapter 637, Involution makes people panic. Zhang Zhaoji's design ability is really good. After Lin Fan saw the picture, he completely forgot about his previous abnormality. Design is a big industry with many branches. In addition to the common advertising design, clothing design, and architectural design, there are many unknown ones, such as industrial design and so on. Zhang Zhaoji's love for mechas is fully reflected in his design drawings. Lin Fan can imagine that, if all these mechas can be put into production, they will look really good at least. Thinking of his age of only 20, Lin Fan suddenly felt that the years of design experience that she was proud of before were all bullshit. What is talent? She finally had a personal experience now. How is it? Zhang Zhaoji had already sat in the chair next to her, but his enthusiasm had not diminished. Let Lin Fan drink some water first. Ke Wenbin handed the cup to her. Thank you. Lin Fan looked up and found that Zibishan and Yu Guangli had left at some point. There were only 3 of them left in the meeting room. Are you not going back to rest? Lin Fan looked at the time on the tablet and asked Ke Wenbin. No. Ke Wenbin shook his head. Design appearance is closely related to materials. I also want to listen nearby. Okay. Lin Fan nodded. They are all young people in their 20s. It's not a problem to sleep late. But so much time has passed. Has the living water arrived? She was worried about Song Ren. She apologized and took out her phone to call John Woo. It hasn't arrived yet, but it will be soon. John Woo reassured her after knowing that she had something on hand. Once it arrives, it will have to be transported, and the equipment will be installed. Song Ren still needs surgery. It won't be that fast. Don't worry. Just focus on the things at hand. Okay. Lin Fan was relieved that John Woo was there. Please notify me when he has surgery. Okay. Wu Yusen answered readily. Are you hungry? Do you want to eat? No, I don't have an appetite now. Lin Fan replied, and then remembered that he had left Wu Yusen alone in the medical department and suddenly felt guilty. Sorry, I left you alone. Didn't I tell you, you don't have to apologize to me. Wu Yusen laughed heartily twice. Besides, this is not the first time I've come here. There are plenty of people here, so don't worry about your work. Lin Fan hung up the phone with a few HMMs, sorted out her thoughts, and focused on the design drawings in her hand. Wenbin went out silently for a while, and soon came back, sitting quietly on the other side of Lin Fan, and listening to her talk. Lin Fan's opinions were very pertinent. As a Mecha operator, although controlling the stars is very different from bionic armor, it is also, because of its stronger functionality and more scenes of going up to the sky and into the earth. So as a developer, her opinions are more forward-looking than those of ordinary bionic armor drivers. For example, some situations that may be encountered during flight. Bionic armor cannot be tried because of its low height and short endurance, but she can explain it clearly. Another example is the feasibility of weapon assembly. In terms of artillery, because she herself does not have it, she only proposed a hypothesis, but she has seen the launch of a Palo up close, and what Lin Fan said is much better than Zhang Zhaoji and others looking at pictures and imagining out of thin air. A big difference in Zhang Zhaoji's design this time is that there is more emphasis. The original bionic armor he produced according to the stars focused on a balance, which can run, fight, and slide. It can do anything, and looks like anything, but it does not highlight the emphasis. This time, there is plenty of material, and there is no need to pick and choose, so Zhang Zhaoji let himself go. There are mechas with strong upper bodies, thickened arms, and equipped with launch systems. There are also flying mechas with narrow bodies, wings on their backs, and they are mainly responsible for fast travel. There are mecha hidden in mechas with retractable weapons. There are also specially raised mechas that can be operated by 2 or even 3 people, but none as big as Pangu. Lin Fan was dazzled by what she saw, and once again marveled at Zhang Zhaoji's clever mind. For a moment, she almost reached out to touch it, hoping to borrow some of his intelligence. When Wenbin heard that Lin Fan was answering the phone, he asked someone to go to the cafeteria to buy supper. Soon, the food was delivered. Lin Fan did not refuse his kindness, and talked while eating. Zhang Zhaoji kept taking notes. Wenbin also took notes, while thinking about which parts needed what kind of materials, and how to distribute them. When working hard, time always passes quickly. When Wu Yusen called, Lin Fan only had the last 2 drawings left to say. She looked at the time. It was already past 4 in the morning. She picked up the water cup and drank it all in one breath. I still have a while. I'll go over after I'm done. She had already taken 99 steps, and she didn't want to leave one more step to go back. The main thing was that this matter involved Zhang Zhaoji and Wenbin. It would be bad to make them wait. Everything was finally over. When Lin Fan got up from her chair, she felt a little dizzy in front of her eyes. She watched Zhang Zhaoji trotting back to his workstation, opening the software, and starting to modify the drawings. She felt that she was not the hardest working person, and at the same time she was glad that she did not delay the progress. Aren't you going back to rest? Lin Fan looked at the bright lights in the 623rd field. Although it was early in the morning, there were still a large number of people busy inside. She felt really emotional. No, we have to make full use of the inspiration while we are still inspired. Wenbin's face was a little tired, but his eyes were bright. The sooner we get it out, the sooner we can start mold production and get busy. This kind of professionalism made Lin Fan wonder if her previous work attitude was too bad. She hurried back to the medical department to find John Woo and asked sincerely, but he smiled and touched his hat. They are them, and you are you. You think they work hard, and they think you are brave and invincible. What's there to compare? Everyone is just contributing in their own different positions. You are doing much harder than them. Don't always belittle yourself. When you have nothing to do, the most important thing is to feel comfortable physically and mentally. Lin Fan thought about it, and it seemed to make sense. Why did she have nothing to do? She couldn't beat those crazy scientists. Don't waste your energy. Don't waste your energy. Don't waste your energy. After shouting the slogan to herself 3 times in her heart, she finally reluctantly put this matter aside. Has Song Ren been in for a long time? She looked at the red light in the operating room and couldn't help but worry. He has been in for a while, but it will take a long time for the anesthesia to take effect. It should have just started. Wu Yusen was waiting for Lin Fan outside the operating room. He didn't know what was going on inside. Do you want to go in and see? Can I? Lin Fan was surprised. Yes, there is an observation room in this operating room. It was originally used for medical exchanges and teaching. You can see the situation of the operation there. Gu, Li Chunhua and others are watching inside. Wu Yusen didn't wait in vain during this period of time. He gave full play to the ability of the agent to collect intelligence. Lin Fan went in anxiously and quickly withdrew. The doctors were opening the back of Song Ren's neck. The bloody scene immediately reminded Lin Fan of bad memories. She seemed to be getting weaker. Lin Fan leaned outside with her legs propped up, trying to quickly delete the scene in her head. Wu Yusen handed her a cup of hot cocoa. Drink it. Lin Fan held the paper cup, smelled the sweet smell inside, and the tension in her body quickly relaxed. It's just to make an artificial opening at his wound, avoiding blood vessels, but exposing the damaged nerves, so that they can be exposed to living water. Don't worry, there is no technical difficulty. Wu Yusen comforted. It sounds simple, but it's not that easy to do in practice. However, the doctors in the 800 medical department are world leading. Since they let Song Ren go on the operating table, it means that they are very confident about this operation. In areas that she doesn't understand, Lin Fan decided not to worry about it and trust the doctors. Have you eaten? She looked up and asked. If Wu Yusen had been staying in the medical department, he probably didn't eat. And he had been with her the whole time and didn't even have lunch yesterday. No, not hungry. Wu Yusen grinned. Lin Fan looked at the operating room and hesitated for a few seconds before deciding whether to continue waiting outside the door in vain or to take Wu Yusen, who had been hungry all day, to eat. Then he stood up. Let's go. I'll treat you to a meal. Chapter 638 Father's love is like a mountain. 800 is very similar to the small tram in the living area of the Special Affairs Office. However, the bus of 800 is driven outside. In the coldest days of winter, it is covered with a layer of transparent plastic film to block the wind, so people sitting inside will not be too cold. When the weather is not so cold, the plastic film will be removed. Let's not talk about summer. The breeze in spring and autumn is so comfortable. Such a small car is definitely not suitable for driving on the road, but it is used internally, with a preferential price, energy saving and emission reduction, and the main focus is on environmental protection. Lin Fan observed carefully, and guessed that these cars may be purchased from the same supplier. This supply must be more than 800 in the Special Affairs Office. Just the purchase volume and level are enough. What are you thinking about? Wu Yusen saw Lin Fan get on the car and touch this and look that, and then began to be in a daze, and asked, "Oh, nothing." Lin Fan didn't know why he suddenly thought of this. Was it because he was so poor? It was embarrassing to say, so he quickly pointed Wu Yusen to change the subject. Turn this way. With Wu Yusen around, it was impossible for Lin Fan to drive. Lin Fan was also used to sitting in his passenger seat. Knowing that he didn't know the way to the cafeteria, she took the initiative to direct him. Wu Yusen saw that she looked relaxed and guessed that it was not a big deal, so he didn't ask any more questions. He was turning the steering wheel, but he didn't expect Lin Fan to suddenly come over and sniff at his shoulder. He didn't need to lower his head, he could see the pom-pom on the woolen hat shaking with his peripheral vision. I don't know what this girl is doing, it's so cute. He didn't avoid or hide and let her move. Lin Fan was also suddenly curious, and her actions were faster than her brain, and she leaned over to smell the cigarette smell on him. In fact, it was very fast, only 1 or 2 seconds, and she didn't actually smell anything. Strange. She sat back in her seat and turned her head to ask the person who was driving seriously, "Why don't you smell like cigarettes?" People who smoke always leave more or less cigarette smell on their bodies. Like Len's father, you can smell it from a long distance. Even the bed he slept on, the cup he drank from, and the clothes he washed all had a strong smell. She had never noticed Wu Yusen smoking before, but today, no, she ran into him yesterday, and suddenly she was a little curious whether Wu Yusen always smelled of cigarettes, but she had never noticed it. Wu Yusen chuckled. "I smoke less than I drink, how can there be any smell? I don't see you drinking much either." Lin Fan thought for a moment and replied, So, I also smoke occasionally, and I'm not addicted. The smell you mentioned can only come out if you are in a fog every day, right? He always carries fireworks with him for the occasional courtesy. After all, for adult men to interact, passing cigarettes and drinking is a necessary routine to quickly enhance feelings. However, as a senior special agent, he rarely needs to take out cigarettes for socializing. But out of habit, he always has them in his pocket. He is also the kind of person who can smoke, but not for nothing, and has no special needs for cigarettes. Lin Fan nodded heavily. It's better not to smoke. Smoking is harmful to health. Wu Yusen remembered that this girl had asked him for cigarettes before, and he smoked so naturally. Now what he said. I know. He smiled and replied, in fact, I think you should tell the director that he smokes a lot. ZHU Kunjin really smells like smoke. I won't tell you. Lin Fan shook his head. What's the matter? Are you still treating him differently? Wu Yusen glanced at her. You don't understand. At the director's age, basically unless he is at the critical moment of life and death, external forces can't make him quit these things. Lin Fan waved his hand. Oh. It looks like you have experience. Yeah. Lin Fan leaned slightly to the side. My dad, you know, is an old smoker. He tried to quit smoking several times but failed. At the beginning, my family was out of money. Everything was reduced, so his cigarettes were naturally reduced, but the price was reduced, not the quantity. Later, for a period of time, he secretly gave me pocket money, saying that he was afraid that I would suffer. I was very touched. He smoked and drank before I was born, but he said that he secretly quit smoking in order to save money for me. When Len's father went bankrupt, he was depressed for a long time. He stayed at home for a long time and accidentally discovered that Len's mother almost didn't give Lin Fan pocket money. Lin Fan was in high school at that time, and she was considered a big girl. Lin's mother didn't give her money. She went home for lunch and gave her 1 yuan for breakfast and 3 yuan for dinner every day. Although money was not as worthless as it is now, 1 yuan was enough to buy a rice cake, a bowl of soy milk, and 2 fried dough sticks in the morning. Dinner in the cafeteria costs 30 cents for 2 taels, a chicken leg costs 1.5 yuan, and a vegetable costs 70 cents. The cafeteria also has a small window selling noodles, wontons, and egg noodles, 2 yuan a bowl. Whether it tastes good or not, Lin Fan wants to save some money, so she can only deduct it from the meal money. After all, she is a student, and she always needs to buy some pen refills, erasers, etc. In order to save money, she rides a bicycle as soon as school is over in the afternoon. After a half-hour ride, she goes up the bridge to cross the river, where there is a bowl of cold noodles for 1 yuan. When she comes back, it is almost time for the bell for evening self-study. But it is always difficult for children in the developmental period to eat enough. A small bowl of cold noodles will make her hungry after the evening self-study. It is not good to be hungry all the time, so it is always difficult to save money. But Len's mother seems to have automatically ignored this point, and Lin Fan is in the rebellious period, making a fuss and not asking. She still remembers that there was a period of time when the school's canteen had a sausage roasting machine. Every time she passed by, the smell made her feel really greedy. The pink little sausages were rolling on the clean and bright machine. Every time she stood by and looked at them while she was checking out, she felt as if she had already eaten them. Who could believe that Lin Fan, whose family was so rich before, was so poor when he was in high school, that he was basically as poor as a poor student. It's not that they looked down on poor students, but that the gap in life was too big. Lin Fan was just stubborn and didn't want to bow down to Lin's mother. Then Lin's father, who was decadent at home, accidentally discovered that his daughter didn't even have money to buy sanitary napkins. At that time, he was also experiencing the double blow of failed business and heavy economic losses. He was like mud and couldn't get up. He didn't have any extra money. The money was all in Lin's mother's hands. Every month, he only gave her some money for cigarettes and alcohol, and it was still distributed according to the proportion of economic contraction. According to Lin's mother's words, don't even think about good cigarettes and good alcohol. It's good to have some to smoke and some to drink. At that time, Lin's mother was not in a good mood. Lin's father smoked and drank as if he was punishing himself. He had a kind of paralysis of living a life of drunkenness and dreams, and didn't want to ask about things. Lin Fan once thought that if this continued, this family would definitely be over. Who knew that suddenly one day, Lin's father stood up. It's not that he suddenly did something, but the person who was paralyzed in bed stood up. The smell of cigarettes on his body was no longer so strong, and he drank less alcohol. At least, the whole person looked like a human being. Lin's father also contracted to make lunch. The lunch during that period was really hard to describe. It was familiar, but people were not so willing to eat it when they had a choice. A month passed like this. After Lin Fan finished her evening self-study, she saw Lin's father waiting at the gate of the community downstairs. He was not as fat as he is now. He stopped his daughter with a smile and took her to a hidden corner of the apartment building next door. If this was not his biological father, Lin Fan would suspect that he wanted to do something bad. Lin's father untied his leather belt, unzipped the hidden zipper inside, and took out a flat ball of paper from it and handed it to Lin Fan. Lin Fan took it without knowing why. It was warm to the touch and still had Lin's father's body temperature. Looking at it under the light, it was a 100 yuan bill. Slowly unfolding it, there were 2 bills. Dad knows you are short of money. Father Lin smiled awkwardly. Dad is useless. I don't have any money. I wanted to quit smoking and drinking to save money for you, but I didn't quit. I saved this little. You can use it first, and Dad will think of other ways. Father Lin's eyes were guilty, and his words were a little trembling, as if he was about to cry. But in the end, it was Lin Fan who shed tears. Her nose was sour, and her tears fell on the money in her hand. Father's love is like a mountain. At that moment, Lin Fan felt it deeply. A new month has begun. Is everyone still there? Chapter 639. The helplessness of being a child. What happened next? Wu Yusen parked the car, pulled the handbrake, and walked to the cafeteria door with Lin Fan. Later, he tried to quit smoking for several months but still couldn't. Lin Fan tightened his cotton coat and pressed his hands around his chest. Later, maybe he felt too aggrieved, so he made a comeback. He didn't need to quit smoking anymore. But I will always remember that when he was in the most difficult time, he quit smoking and drinking in order to save money for me. Although he didn't succeed in the end. Lin Fan smiled with her head down. Later, she took the money and bought her first grilled sausage in her life. It was 2 yuan a piece, and it was really delicious. Simply the most delicious thing in the world. She cried after eating it, and she couldn't bear to throw away the skewers, so she washed them and took them home to put away. Later, maybe she ate too much, or maybe the sausage factory changed the materials. Until now, she has never eaten such delicious grilled sausages, even in the Special Affairs Office and 800. The cafeteria was brightly lit, dispelling the darkness outside. As soon as she stepped in, she was enveloped by the light. Just like in her memory, Lin's father also stepped into a bright life. John Woo knew what happened before and after Lin's father went bankrupt. But such private matters as quitting smoking to save pocket money for his daughter could not be known from other sources, except the parties involved. So you like your father more? John Woo followed Lin Fan and took the tray. On the surface, that's the case. Lin Fan pushed the tray in front without looking back. On the surface? John Woo asked. Whether you like your father or mother more is a question that is used to trick children. Lin Fan smiled and turned around. I used to think that I liked my father, but not my mother. But then Jin Sichen woke me up and realized that maybe my dislike for my mother was just a concern that I couldn't get. This is really what Jin Sichen would do. John Woo grinned. Because my father is not often at home, I like my mother, but not my father. Or because my mother can't meet my psychological expectations, I like my father, but not my mother. Lin Fan shook her head. I'm past that age. It's just that my father is indeed easier to get along with and communicate with than my mother. So on the surface, I do like my father more. Lin Fan used to hate Lin's mother very much. She hated her so much that she didn't want to continue meeting her. She once thought that Lin's mother was the source of all tragedies. But the more he hated, the harder he could not let go. The tighter the lock in his heart was pulled, suffocating himself. Jin Sichen spent a lot of effort on reconciling with Lin's mother. He stood in Lin Fan's perspective and sorted out life with her. He analyzed the good and bad of Lin's mother. He helped Lin Fan scold Lin's mother, pointed out her mistakes, and the various harms she had done to Lin Fan. Lin Fan got support little by little in the conversation with Jin Sichin. It turned out that she was not wrong, and someone understood her. But Lin's mother's mistakes are difficult to change after all. Her personality and age determine her life. Lin Fan almost died several times, but failed to turn her around. Basically, there is no need to make other meaningless attempts. So Jin Sichin's final plan is to let Lin Fan let go. It's not because of great love that he chose to forgive. Instead, it's to let Lin Fan free himself and let go of the pain of the past, so he downplayed the various causes and effects of Lin's mother in it and forgive objectively. That is, pay less attention to her, think less about her, reduce the impact of her words and deeds on himself, and ignore it subjectively. Lin Fan tried it, and it worked. Later, after her good job was exposed, Lin's mother rarely made trouble. Lin Fan also found a way to get along harmoniously with Lin's mother. As for the past, let it go. Life now is pretty good. Why bother dwelling on the pain of the past and ignoring the happy life now? Although it is very touching that your father quit smoking for you, it has not reached the point of life and death, right? Wu Yusen remembered that what she said just now was that he could not quit smoking unless it reached the point of life and death. Hey, that was before. Lin Fan waved his hand and took the food without looking back. Later, didn't my father have high blood pressure? He almost had a stroke once and was hospitalized for a long time. The doctor asked him to quit smoking and drinking. He didn't quit. Wu Yusen knew it without asking. Lin's father now has a monthly expense report for smoking and drinking in his computer. He quit. He was terribly terrified at that time. Lin Fan sneered, but within 3 months, it recurred. I once told him very seriously about the seriousness of this matter. Lin Fan turned around and looked at Wu Yusen with a serious expression. Smoking and drinking are not only harmful to his body itself, but also affect the medicine he takes. Normal people will be harmful to their health by smoking and drinking, not to mention that he almost had a stroke. You are not always so lucky. He didn't listen. Wu Yusen said this affirmatively. Lin Fan sighed and turned back, continuing to move forward. It's good that he listened. The convenience of parents is probably that they can use age and status to do whatever they want. My dad told me that he also wanted to quit, but he just couldn't help it. Over the years, smoking and drinking have become an indispensable part of his life. He may not know when he will die, but he feels worse than dying if he doesn't smoke or drink. In fact, he had quit for more than 3 months at that time. If he persists, he can quit. Lin Fan lowered his head. Can you say it works? If it works, I want to tie him up and beat him up. It's not easy to quit, and she knows the pain in her heart. When she quit taking drugs, she felt that way, but she held on and stopped taking drugs. Later, Lin Fan thought that if she could quit, Lin's father might not be unable to quit. But people are independent individuals. It doesn't make sense that she can ask Lin's father to do the same, right? A big reason why she can succeed is because she is poor. But when Lin's father was the poorest, he didn't quit, right? His eyes were full of tears at that time, and I thought about how he had saved money for me. Didn't he quit smoking and drinking? So he gave in. Lin Fan shook his head helplessly and smiled. In fact, people are the first person responsible for their own safety. If they don't take themselves seriously, what's the use of others saying anything? Just let him go. Lin Fan sighed and felt uncomfortable. Wu Yusen patted his shoulder. Don't think about it. I think uncle is in good health. Lin Fan forced a smile. He is over 60 years old and has underlying diseases. He smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day and drinks half a bottle of liquor with a meal. How long can he be healthy? But there is no point in saying these discouraging words. After all, Lin's father is not in any trouble. Since we can't change his will, we can just enjoy the good part. So, it's impossible to persuade people to quit smoking. When they should quit, they will quit on their own. Lin Fan patted his shoulder and concluded his speech. Throw all the bad things in your head into the corner and continue to look for food. The two of them stopped talking about this and filled 3 plates with delicious food. When they walked to the checkout, they were dumbfounded. Lin Fan had an 800 badge, but he was in a hurry this time and didn't bring it with him. Wu Yusen had other visitor badges on him, and there was no money in them. The two stared at each other and then laughed. It was sloppy. This was a mess. The 800 toll collector had a good attitude. He knew that they couldn't eat a free meal, so he asked the two to wait aside. Lin Fan took out his phone, ready to call for help, when he heard a crisp sound behind him. Hey? Lin Fan, is that you? In fact, being a child is a lot of helplessness. When children are disobedient, you can beat them or scold them. That's education. But what should I do if the elderly are disobedient? You can't beat them or scold them, or they will say you are unfilial. Disobedience is also unfilial. Not giving money is also unfilial. Not having a good job is unfilial. Not getting married on time is unfilial. It's better when parents love their children when they are young and enjoy a happy childhood. Many parents abandon their children when they are young and have to support them when they are old. It's pitiful to hear that. Being a child is too difficult. Chapter 640 Miss Jiangyu. Jiangyu had already seen the two people in front of her who were dressed differently. The 800 people always wear uniforms, and those who don't wear uniforms must be outsiders. But as for visitors, although there are not many visitors to the institute, there are always some every year, so it's not a rare thing, and she didn't pay much attention to it. It was only at the checkout counter, when she was close to it, and heard a familiar and unexpected voice, that she realized that it might be an acquaintance, and asked. Sure enough, when the other party turned around, wasn't it Lin Fan? Long time no see, Lin Fan. Jiangyu greeted with a smile, and nodded to Wu Yusen next to him, then looked down. What are you doing? I came in a hurry, forgot to bring my badge, and had no money to pay the bill, so I was about to call for help. Lin Fan scratched the hat on the back of his head in embarrassment. Hey, it's a small matter, I'll pay for it. Jiangyu waved her hand, and asked the cashier to settle the bills they had put up with hers. Come on. Come on, we haven't seen each other for a long time, let's sit together and eat. Jiangyu paid the bill, and walked towards the two of them with a smile on her face, holding the plate. Okay. Lin Fan also smiled back. She just helped to pay the bill, and it was not right to refuse this normal request. Jiangyu was the girl she had relatively more contact with than 800, except for the people in the 623 team. She was pretty, straightforward, and had good business skills. Who doesn't like a pretty girl? Lin Fan liked her too. The three of them found a seat and sat down. As soon as Lin Fan put down the plate, he took out his phone. Scan the payment code for me, and I'll transfer the money to you. After clicking twice, he remembered that he was a pauper now, so he had to turn his eyes to John Woo. John Woo understood immediately, and took out his phone neatly. No, no, Jiangyu waved his hands repeatedly, with no intention of taking out his phone at all. How much money can this be? The food price of 800 was affordable to begin with, and it didn't cost much to eat window dishes in the cafeteria for a day. Lin Fan and Jiangyu spent a lot, but they were all breakfast items, and the total was only 70 or 80 yuan. It was not even as much as a breakfast in a tourist area. Yes, this is enough for you to have breakfast for half a month. Lin Fan insisted, and took Wu Yusen's mobile phone that had already opened to the code scanning interface. I know it's not a lot of money for you, but... Jiangyu held Lin Fan's hand. Sister, if you still treat me as a sister, don't say that. Lin Fan was stunned. Her relationship with Jiangyu didn't seem to be as good as that of sisters, but she couldn't just say that, right? If it was Li Chunhua and the others, Lin Fan wouldn't be polite to them. As for Jiangyu, it was mainly because they were not that familiar with each other, so she made a clear distinction in her mind. She always felt embarrassed to owe others money. If you feel sorry, that's easy. Then when I come back to your territory, you can invite me back, and I will definitely not stop you from paying the bill. Jiangyu said generously. Okay. Lin Fan stopped struggling, and handed the phone to Wu Yusen, smiling. Then it's a deal. You must notify me when you go to Gao. Of course. Jiangyu gave a wink. Lin Fan suddenly felt that the relationship between the two of them had become much closer. She smiled and introduced Jiangyu to Wu Yusen, and Wu Yusen smiled and greeted him. When she finished introducing Wu Yusen, Jiangyu continued, I know you. The man who can beat Captain Song. What kind of title is this? Wu Yusen was puzzled, but he still smiled. After Jiang Yu explained, the two finally knew the origin of this title. It was when Lin Fan's wound from being stabbed by the green turtle healed, and she came to the cafeteria to eat with Song Ren. Later, for some reason, the two of them started fighting. Wu Yusen suddenly took action and pushed Song Ren aside to protect Lin Fan. At that time, many of us were there, and the man who could beat Captain Song was this man. Jiang Yu gave a thumbs up with his left hand. Thank you. Wu Yusen smiled modestly. No, we know about Captain Song. Jiang Yu grinned. I don't know how many people tried to pin him down, but failed. Although you just pushed him out, we can see that, if we really fight, it's not certain who will win or lose. Then he looked at Lin Fan again. Didn't you fight with Captain Song before? He was so powerful. We even made a private bet on when you could beat him. But you were transferred away a few days later. Jiang Yu sighed and shook his head. My performance. TSK. This move of cutting off the bottom of the pot directly confused all the people who participated in the bet in 800. Everyone's performance was lost to the research institute, and everyone had to pinch their noses to admit it. Song Ren. Lin Fan just opened his mouth and remembered Jiang Yu's nonchalant look when she said Song Ren, and wondered if she didn't know about Song Ren's injury. But it was not easy to ask directly. If he asked, wouldn't it be exposed? If 800 concealed the news of Song Ren's injury from everyone, they must have their intentions, and he couldn't be the one who leaked the news. Jiang Yu took 2 bites and saw Lin Fan looking at her hesitantly, blinking, and misunderstood. I don't have that intention towards Captain Song anymore. Huh. Lin Fan was stunned. Is that what she wanted to say? But when Jiang Yu said that, she naturally couldn't help but think about it. She didn't pay attention to it before, but now that she thinks about it, Song Ren must be there every time Jiang Yu meets them. She remembered that, when she first met Jiang Yu, this girl seemed to be quite hostile to her. But she was not the only one who was hostile, and she didn't care much about it at that time. And later, the hostility disappeared quickly, and they all became friendly to her. So Lin Fan didn't think about it in this way. It turned out that it was because Jiang Yu was interested in Song Ren. No wonder. Lin Fan clapped his fist in his heart and felt that some things made sense. It only took a few seconds to go from serious business to gossip. Lin Fan's gossip fire was ignited. But he felt that it was not good for him to listen to Song Ren's gossip here in Song Ren's current situation. So he hesitated and said nothing. Hey, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Jiang Yu didn't care at all, and he spilled the beans. What girl wouldn't be attracted to a man like Captain Song? It's reasonable for me to have thoughts about him, right? Lin Fan nodded. Indeed, Song Ren is tall and handsome, has a good personality, strong work ability, considerate work, and can make money, not to mention his muscles. According to the popular saying on the internet, girls will be fascinated when they see him. Which single girl wouldn't be attracted to him? Even a girl of her age almost couldn't resist. Okay. Then why didn't you continue? Lin Fan was curious. In theory, Jiang Yu is a beautiful girl with strong business ability and a good personality. She is a perfect match for Song Ren. In addition, the two work in the same unit, so they are close to each other. With such a good opportunity, why didn't Jiang Yu seize it and give it up instead? It's because Captain Song likes. Jiang Yu didn't know whether Lin Fan really didn't know or pretended not to know. Song Ren cared about Lin Fan in a special way. When she was about to say something, a pair of chopsticks came out from the side and gave her a glutinous rice ball. This is delicious. Try it. Jiang Yu choked on her words and looked at Wu Yusen next to her, who was looking at her with a smile. This guy was dealing with her for the first time. As a senior special agent of the Special Affairs Office, he shouldn't be so inappropriate. So he deliberately asked her not to say it. Those who can enter the 800 are elites, and their brains are much better than Lin Fan. Jiang Yu's eyes turned from Wu Yusen's face to Lin Fan's face. This big sister looked at her stupidly, as if she really knew nothing. Well, Captain Song didn't say anything himself, so why should she be the matchmaker? Wouldn't that make them happy? No. Jiangyu picked up the glutinous rice ball with a little dissatisfaction and took a big bite. Seeing that Lin Fan was still waiting for her answer, she smiled. As a man, career is not important. Isn't it good for me to be beautiful alone? Wu Yusen looked at Lin Fan from the side and nodded, thinking it made sense, and laughed in his heart. His silly girl. Miss Jiangyu, does anyone remember her? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 641, Jiangyu's responsibility. With Jiangyu's reluctance to mention it, and Lin Fan's deliberate avoidance, the name Song Ren never appeared in the subsequent chat. When Jiangyu is not hostile to others, it is very pleasant to get along with them. For example, now, as someone who knows the relationship between Lin Fan and Xingchen, she praised Lin Fan a lot. Even though Lin Fan is the kind of person who is slow to accept emotions, he was embarrassed by her direct way of praising. Xingchen's short videos are all over the internet. Most people see that she is handsome and powerful. Only combat personnel like Jiangyu can realize the various crises. Since Song Ren's injury was concealed from the outside world, Xingchen's injury will naturally not be announced. Even if the propaganda department wants to make people cry and gain enough goodwill, it will give up because it cannot explain why she can recover in such a short time. So except for the relevant personnel, no one knows that Lin Fan suffered a very fatal and serious injury during the process of repelling the enemy. Everyone only sees her glory, but no one knows her past pain. Xingchen was pushed to the altar. Lin Fan felt that this was not a good thing, but she was powerless to stop it and could only let it develop. But she still enjoyed the feeling of a familiar lady praising you and caring about you in front of her. She was delighted, and a trace of warmth seeped into her heart, moistening her little uneasiness. Forget it, let them be, whatever they want. Lin Fan decided not to think about things that had not happened. Preparing for a rainy day is too tiring for her. Anyway, there are tall people to support the sky when it falls. Lin Fan glanced at Wu Yusen, who was silent and chewing slowly beside him. I feel that I don't have to worry too much. As they chatted, the topic naturally shifted to the Mecha core. You know about this, right? Lin Fan asked Jiangyu. She didn't think it was a secret that couldn't be mentioned. The development and design stage of the new Mecha is almost completed. According to the process, the project must have been announced in 800. And as for the pilots, the reserve team will definitely be selected in the first batch. There is no suspense. I know. Jiangyu's eyes lit up, and then he sighed. It's a pity that I joined the team early. If I had known earlier, it would be great to join the humanoid team now. Can't I apply for a transfer? Lin Fan has been in 800 for quite a while, and she still knows roughly some things. Sure. Jiangyu lowered her head, picked up the porridge in the bowl, and sighed softly. But if I apply for a transfer, the exoskeleton side will be short of people, and if I transfer new people to supplement, their proficiency will not be as good as mine in all aspects. For the upper management, the number of personnel required for each mature project is relatively fixed. If Jiangyu is transferred, the driver of the exoskeleton group will inevitably change. Not to mention whether it is stable or not. Just from the perspective of proficiency and adaptation time, who is more skilled than the Captain Jiangyu? It's not as easy to use new people as it is to use old people. It's hard to train a mature exoskeleton driver, let her go, and train a new person to continue working. Why bother? Therefore, internal transfers are not impossible, but generally speaking, they will not be done, which will disrupt the existing balance. It is indeed a positive thing for individuals. It is great to master several driving skills. You can drive whatever you want. In case of any emergency, you can always substitute. But this is only for simple mechanical driving. When it comes to humanoid mecha driving, the training of such a complex system can only be backward compatible, and then upward. It's too difficult. To put it simply, Jiangyu can learn the same or simpler mecha driving technology while driving the exoskeleton. Humanoid mecha drivers like Song Ren can also learn exoskeleton technology as a supplement. for them. These simple mecha driving is not complicated, but they will not deliberately learn Panga's driving method. Therefore, the development of humanoid mecha is a watershed in 800 mecha technology. Although it is still a research product of the family, many gaps have been opened. I thought you would be one of the first to submit a report after the candidates were opened. Lin Fan murmured. Every time Jiang Yu saw the mecha, the light in her eyes was more enthusiastic than when she saw Song Ren. Anyone can see that she likes mecha. I thought about it, but I don't think it's appropriate. Jiang Yu smacked his lips and shook his head. I like it, but I have a lot of responsibilities. Don't think that the exoskeleton is just a mechanical frame. It's not as majestic and handsome as your humanoid mecha. But in actual applications, exoskeletons are much more widely used than humanoids. Speaking of his work, Jiang Yu's eyes lit up. As a power system, the exoskeleton is light, easy to control, and low cost, which are all its advantages. As for the humanoid mecha, although I like it very much, objectively speaking, its manufacturing cost, training cost, energy replacement, and many other limitations. In the non-combat link, it actually does not have much advantage. It is said that women who work hard are the most beautiful. Lin Fan looked at Jiang Yu talking freely and felt that she was really surrounded by a halo. How to say it, that kind of confident look is really beautiful. So, I like the humanoid mecha, but I can't give up Xiaogu. Jiang Yu smiled brightly. Xiaogu is her nickname for the exoskeleton mecha. Who doesn't like beautiful things? But it's impossible to get everything you want. For me, I'd rather grasp the economical and practical things in my hands. I've thought about it too. If there's a requirement from above to let me go on the humanoid machine, I'll go. If not, I'll just keep my little bones and stand my ground. She clenched her fist and made a cheering gesture. Lin Fan could see a hint of reluctance in her eyes, but more of a sense of relief and determination. He couldn't help but stretch out his fist and put it in front of his eyes to cheer her on. Well, come on. The two girls looked at each other, and then they both laughed. Eat quickly. Wu Yusen urged by the side, handing over a plate. You have so much food, it will get cold if you don't eat it quickly. There is air conditioning in the cafeteria, but food will get cold after a while. Lin Fan took it and ate it all up, making Jiang Yu envious. This figure that doesn't gain weight even if you eat. Which girl doesn't want to have it? Forget it, why think so much? Hurry up and eat your own. She also buried her head in eating. Jiang Yu had to go to work. After eating, she added Lin Fan to her communication number, said hello, and ran away with the plate. Lin Fan still had a large table of food left to eat and continued to work hard. Sometimes she felt that eating was too time consuming, but she also knew that it was the only convenient way to replenish energy, and there was nothing else to choose from. Suddenly she thought of Antonio, wondering if he also had to eat so much to replenish energy. Country P. Antonio was making a fuss in his room. He wanted to contact Lin Fan when the war was over, but he was a little homesick. After all, he was in the wrong in concealing his identity. Both of them concealed the identity of the mecha, but he approached Lin Fan with a purpose. In his experience, when a girl faces deception, she either pretends that nothing happened or slaps her in the face and breaks up. As for Lin Fan, he felt that the latter possibility was very high. Although when they were in the mecha, everyone knew each other's identities and helped each other. But that was a special period, and no one cared about those subtle embarrassments. Now that everything is fine, he can't always appear in front of Lin Fan wearing a mecha, right? But if he appears like this, will Lin Fan be angry? Will he ignore him? Will he break up with him? What should he say first? Say hello first or apologize first? Antonio was hesitant in all kinds of entanglements, shrinking in his own little nest and imagining all kinds of things. When he finally made up his mind to go find Lin Fan, he was stopped by Ovi again. He said that the relationship between the G countries is chaotic now, and if he goes there rashly, it may be regarded as a provocation by H country. Antonio was already feeling weak in his heart, and he shrank back after hearing this. Ovi comforted him that time would dilute the contradiction, and if he dragged it out for a long time, Lin Fan would forget these unpleasant things. Antonio listened to his nonsense, but he was indeed not fully prepared. He suddenly realized that he seemed to attach too much importance to Lin Fan. But Lin Fan saved his life. Was it wrong for him to attach importance to him? Of course not. After Antonio answered his own question, he collapsed on the sofa in annoyance and began to think about what would be a better first sentence when he met Lin Fan. The character of Jiang Yu was originally created to be jealous and snatch Song Ren, and then be slapped in the face by Lin Fan. But after I wrote it, I thought, why should good ladies slap each other in the face to snatch a man? Isn't it good to be beautiful alone and focus on your career? So it became like this. Ha ha ha. No, my writing is too plain. I'll write a character with emotions, sticky, and slapping faces. Doesn't it look more cool? I'll talk about it later. Chapter 642 Silent Companion. Song Ren's operation was of course completed successfully. When Lin Fan and Wu Yusen came back, he had been transferred to soak in running water. A transparent bathtub-like thing came from nowhere, and Song Ren was soaked in it naked, with only his facial features exposed above the water. Lin Fan glanced at the door, and did not go in. On the one hand, Song Ren would not want to be seen by people close to him in such a passive situation. Anyway, Lin Fan put himself in her shoes. If she was paralyzed, she would wish that no one knew about it. The stronger a person is, the greater the psychological gap will be when he is down and out. It can be seen from being driven away when visiting him before. On the other hand, he was soaking naked, and Lin Fan really couldn't bear to watch. It's not that she hasn't seen breasts and legs before, but this time is different. Lin Fan thinks she is still a girl, and she will definitely avoid this situation. So after asking the doctor about the general situation, she sat on the chair outside the operating room door. Fortunately, the operation was over when she came back, otherwise she would definitely start to think about it and create pressure for herself. Are you going to stay here like this? John Woo bought 2 cans of hot drinks from the vending machine and handed one to her. Lin Fan held it in her hands and felt warm. Her hands, which had been frozen outside just now, felt much better. I have to stay with you. Even though we are not inside, the wall is almost the same. She rubbed her hands together, and the can moved between her hands. When I was injured, Song Ren stayed by my bed almost every day. Now that he's injured, I have to give him back. Give him back? John Woo stood and opened the can, watching the ball of wool on Lin Fan's head swaying. If Song Ren knew that this was her plan, he would not be happy. But he had no choice. With Lin Fan's current status, it was already good enough for him to stay by her bed. John Woo sat down next to Lin Fan, leaned back in his chair, and watched Lin Fan continue to rest his elbows on his knees, rubbing the hot cocoa in his hands, and slowly drinking his coffee. You said. She rubbed slower and slower, and finally stopped, hesitantly speaking, will it be useful? Although she insisted on using the living water to heal, she was actually not sure at all. There was always a voice in her heart whispering that Song Ren's life was like this. Trying to save a dying horse is just the last resort, and it doesn't always heal. Wu Yusen sighed in his heart and put his arm around her shoulders. It will definitely be useful. Have you forgotten that the ugly woman soaked herself in the living water when she was injured? And Kan Leo. That's right. Lin Fan grinned. If Kan Leo can be saved, Song Ren will definitely not be a problem. 800 people were about to give up, and now they are all acting according to her wishes. If she puts on this look again, isn't it scaring people? Needless to say, there is still a lot of uneasiness in her heart, but at least it can't be seen on the surface. In this way, Lin Fan guarded outside Song Ren's ward for several days. When she was tired, she went back to her small villa to sleep, and Wu Yusen came to help her guard. When Wu Yusen was tired, he slept on the small sofa in her villa. As time went by, of course, it was inevitable that she would run into Lee Chun-hua. Little Lee looked so depressed that one would have thought he was the one who was paralyzed. He couldn't help crying when he saw Lin Fan, crying loudly. Lin Fan touched his short hair, poked and rubbed it. What else could he do? Comfort him. Comforting Lee Chun-hua was also comforting herself. Sometimes she thought that it was actually pretty good now. At least Lee Chun-hua and the others were all fine. Otherwise what would happen to his parents, Myeoneo and Hunyu? War is the most cruel and merciless. Only after experiencing it can you understand the value of peace. How can we keep peace? Sure enough, there is no other way except to become stronger. Every time Ji came over, he sat outside the door like Lin Fan. When chatting, he didn't mention Song Ren in the door, but told Lin Fan about the progress of cracking the contents of the 800 world trees. Yes, after the barrier was stabilized, the ugly woman gradually released the technological contents in the world tree. She may not be able to stand the poor ability of Langsing, and wants to force the technological progress of Langsing. But the data was given, but the researchers couldn't understand it. They didn't understand this, they didn't understand that, and there were some things that seemed to be figured out. After the researchers discussed it, they asked a representative to ask the ugly woman. As a result, she scolded her. What happened next? Lin Fan smiled. The ugly woman is like this. She scolds when she is unhappy, never looking at the target, and never suppresses herself. However, as the backup goddess of Langsing, there is really nothing that can restrain her. What's the later? Ji smiled bitterly. The screen went black after scolding. Who dares to get close? What about the research progress? Lin Fan asked. A technologically powerful planet. Many people don't know that before Gro was defeated, another aircraft appeared near Langsing. Although it ran away for unknown reasons, who knows when it will come back? The most urgent task is to develop technology. Aren't they setting up the United Alliance? Ji smiled. Once the alliance is established, and the relationship is relatively stable, the information will be shared internationally. This is to seek external help. In fact, after the barrier is unfolded, the world tree and the ugly woman can no longer be hidden. It's just that each country holds the initiative, and the others can only cooperate. The content of the technology tree is disconnected from the existing technology level of Langsing. Therefore, it is impossible to integrate and use it directly. Although it is difficult to crack, the effect of applying some of the cracked content to the entity is really extraordinary. The technological development of each country in Langsing has its own strengths. If the wisdom of scientists around the world can be gathered, it is believed that the cracking and application of new technologies should be faster. In the case of the ugly woman refusing to help, this is also the only way. But the premise is that a solid alliance is concluded. Otherwise, it is easy for the shady guys like P Country to take the information and study it secretly. But these are not things that Lin Fan and others should worry about. They just need to keep up with the situation and do their own things. Ji chatted with Lin Fan in a guiding way, trying not to let her think about Song Ren's injury. However, Lin Fan felt that Ji had already taken on the role of captain when Song Ren was not around. Even though his physical fitness was the lowest among the four, and even worse than some second generation pilots, his forward thinking, foresight, and various arrangements and layouts allowed the Mecha team without Song Ren to operate in an orderly manner. Thinking of the upcoming expansion of the Mecha team, Lin Fan felt that Ji would definitely have a place to show his strengths. Gao Fei and Li Chunhua were not as good at guiding as Ji, but after all, they were partners who had lived together for a long time. It was always okay to accompany Lin Fan to play short videos, play games, kill time, help bring meals, etc. After almost half a month, the doctor gave exciting news when he re-examined Song Ren. His body is conscious. Since Song Ren was not killed, there must be a trick. Who can guess it? Haha, you certainly can't guess it. The foreshadowing was left anyway. Song Ren is a man with the first 200 chapters. Since he is not dead, the benefits must be great. They are all biological sons. Hehe. Chapter 643 Promotion. After Li Chunhua confirmed the news, she hugged Gao Fei and cried with joy. Lin Fan and Wu Yusen breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Although he was just conscious, it was much better than before, when he had no feeling at all. It's only been 10 days, isn't it? Everyone was happy and felt that Song Ren would definitely be healed by the living water in time. Song Ren himself also gained confidence, showing his first smile after the injury, and his attitude became more positive. Seeing that the living water had such a healing effect, Cui Yan even went to ZHU Kunjin to ask for samples for research. In the following days, it seemed that Song Ren's attitude had visibly improved. It would take a while for his body to recover, but he became more alive, and no longer looked as depressed as before. After knowing that Lin Fan and ZHU Kunjin had been waiting outside to accompany him, he closed his eyes and let them go back to do their own things. Lin Fan then remembered that he had been busy with Song Ren's affairs and had forgotten to find a grocery store for Mr. Kyan. He felt guilty, but Wu Yusen said it was okay. There were already thousands of people looking for the grocery store, and it wouldn't be a big problem if they were missing. It didn't matter if she wanted to stay a little longer. As the lone director of the Special Affairs Office, Lin Fan had absolute autonomy when there was no mission, and ZHU Kunjin also agreed to come here. After thinking about it, Lin Fan felt that she still couldn't let go of Song Ren. She wanted to stay for another 10 days to see if Song Ren could recover better. Just when everyone was immersed in beautiful dreams, a call from the Special Affairs Office broke the peace. ZHU Kunjin first cared about Song Ren's condition, and then about Lin Fan's physical recovery. After Lin Fan answered one by one, he asked directly, "Director, is there an emergency?" The rules of the Special Affairs Office are that internal members don't call easily, and if they call, it means there is something. What's more, as the director, ZHU Kunjin is usually very busy, and it is impossible for him to suddenly call just to greet her. There are some problems, but they are not urgent. You'd better come back. ZHU Kunjin smiled and reminded her, "Come back by plane, don't worry." After Lin Fan hung up the phone, he quickly contacted Wu Yusen, who was resting in the villa. While waiting for him, he went to the doctor's office and said something to Dr. Zhao Wu Yi. "Do you want to tell Captain Song?" Wu Yi asked. "Forget it, he is fine now, soaking in the water quietly. It would be too troublesome for me to go in. Not to mention that I have to cover him with something. He will definitely get up, which will easily affect his condition. You can find a chance to tell him later." Lin Fan shook his head without hesitation. After coming out of the office, he sent a message to Li Chunhua and others. After Song Ren's condition stabilized, they did not continue to watch every day. The preliminary screening of the new Mecha team's pilots has begun, and they are all busy. By the way, he also sent a message to everyone in the 623 group, telling himself that he would leave soon and meet again if there was a chance. Wu Yusen came quickly, left the medical department, and the logistics vehicle was waiting at the door, and sent them directly to the flight base next door. "Take a special plane again." Lin Fan sat in the small plane and put on his helmet. "I thought we were going to travel by private plane this time. I originally wanted to travel by private plane, but the road traffic here has not been fully restored, so I applied for a special plane." Wu Yusen buckled his helmet and fastened his seatbelt. "Anyway, with your level, you can already travel by private plane." "Huh? What level was I?" Lin Fan had long forgotten about this. "Admiral." Wu Yusen replied with a smile. "That's not right. I don't think it's this level." Lin Fan scratched his chin, suspecting that Wu Yusen had slipped his tongue. "That's right. It turns out that you and Jin Sichin are both equivalent to the rank of colonel. Isn't this the gross thing? Your achievements have attracted global attention, so the higher-ups promoted you. Now you are an admiral." Wu Yusen looked at Lin Fan's eyes, which were wide open, and felt silly and cute. Zundu fake do. Lin Fan felt that he was in a fantasy, and his words were not standard. "How come I don't know anything about it? Are you kidding me? Really? They're going to tell you at the awarding ceremony, to give you a surprise. I'm just giving you a heads up in advance. Really? Really?" Lin Fan also felt that John Woo wouldn't lie to her. She blinked and suddenly stared at him and asked, "Admiral, what level is it? Is it impressive?" John Woo saw that she looked silly and didn't understand anything, so he smiled. "Of course admirals are impressive. You can count the number of people who are still alive at this level on one hand. Above this level, there are only generals and G family UNS. But generals are all meritorious figures. When G was founded, they fought hard in the melee and have won merits. Now they are no longer alive, and G family UNS is actually a temporary position in the old man's military. So tell me, is an admiral impressive? Doesn't that mean that I've reached the top?" Lin Fan jumped up from the chair. Yes, he is only an admiral. You are now on par with him." Wu Yusen pulled her to sit down and helped her fasten her seatbelt. "Minister Lin is getting promoted and making money. He is so sharp. Don't forget to promote me more." In fact, if the Special Affairs Office works normally, Lin Fan may never be promoted to the rank of general in her life, because her initial position as a minister was a bit empty. So the credit for the subsequent missions will fill in this level. Unless she makes outstanding contributions, or becomes the head of the Special Affairs Office, she will be promoted to colonel at best. But in the matter of the Grow invasion war, Lin Fan's contribution is also obvious. How to calculate the credit for saving a planet. No matter how you calculate it, it is not too much, right? In addition, the three big guys of the Special Affairs Office don't like to care about mundane things, especially Lezing Yuan King, who still fights for Lin Fan. Back and forth, half of their credit goes to Lin Fan, and the other half benefits the Special Affairs Office. So Lin Fan was promoted to Admiral at the age of 38. Although it was abrupt, no one refuted a word. The merits were earned by others through hard work. Without her, they might have turned to ashes long ago. What's the point of talking about it? Of course, other participants in the war also received different rewards according to their merits, and those who deserved compensation received compensation. It's just that the matter of the United Alliance has not been settled yet, so the relatively less urgent matter of awarding medals has been put aside. Don't worry, if you become rich and powerful, don't forget each other. Lin Fan said with a smile, and then realized that he seemed to have said it wrong. After thinking about it, he couldn't think of a replacement word, so he simply waved his hand and said to Wu Yusen, "The details are not important, you understand." Wu Yusen knew her, so he didn't care, grinning beside him. "So, how much will the salary increase?" Lin Fan was happy, and then thought of the most practical problem. She doesn't have $1 now. Oh, that's not right. There is some living allowance in the 800 badge, but that can only be used for 800, which is equivalent to nothing. Well, I really don't know. Wu Yusen scratched his chin. I've never encountered such a thing before. You can ask the director later. During the flight, the two kept whispering. Lin Fan was the main one, and she began to plan what she would do after she had money. Wu Yusen saw her counting on her fingers how much money it would cost to buy a house, how much money it would cost to buy a car, and how much money she would save to do this and that, and then she thought of her decisiveness in donating all her money. It felt like they were completely different people. Thanks to Lin Fan, Wu Yusen also donated almost all his savings, but at least he still had 1,000 yuan left for food and next month's salary. It's just that his savings were not that much, so it was not conspicuous at all. Lin Fan, this girl, is stingy sometimes, and generous, really generous. Women. Wu Yusen shook his head in his heart. It's really hard to understand. All the way back to the Special Affairs Office, the two were still happy. Wu Yusen thought that, if ZHU Kunjin said it was not urgent, it must not be a big deal. Maybe they just didn't want Cui Yan to be proud, so they called her back and found something to do. Lin Fan also thought it was possible, but when she went to ZHU Kunjin's office, she realized that they were all wrong. There was another magnetic field disorder in space, which was suspected to be a precursor to the start of space jump. We are going to the universe. Can we let the protagonist sit idle? Of course not. Get excited. Chapter 644. The love of the whole people. Although Grow was gone, he still left a big mess on Langsing. The aftermath work has been ongoing, and the list of casualties has been counted one by one. Subsequent infrastructure reconstruction, personnel arrangements, and a lot of other things need to be solved urgently. So on New Year's Eve this year, no one was in the mood to celebrate. Even H country, which was the least affected, was not too happy due to the overall atmosphere. The new year came quietly. Everyone worked hard in their respective positions, wanting to make more contributions and make life better faster. During the time when Lin Fan accompanied Song Ren in 800, the Space Administration was not idle either, and launched several satellites into space one after another. These are satellites related to communications, meteorology, and other people's livelihood. They were also originally planned to be launched within the year. This time, Grow cleared all the satellites around Langsing, resulting in no detectors in the outer circle of Langsing. The satellites that survived were all far away and could not illuminate the surrounding area of Langsing. The appearance of Grow represents the new life trend in space. Without external monitoring, it is unsafe in any way. Therefore, as soon as conditions allowed, these prepared satellites were launched. The technical content of this kind of small satellite is not as high as that of manned satellites, so it is relatively easy to manufacture. If there were not enough launch vehicles, there would be more satellites in the sky. The space station components that were pulled back by Xingqian before will be sent into space again when conditions are ripe. Originally, someone proposed that Xingqian send more satellites to the sky, which would be fast and good, and would not consume rockets, but Zhu Kunjin criticized them. The old man did not agree, and personally said that the first priority was to ensure people's livelihood, and everything else could be done slowly. Everyone knew that Xingqian was injured, and that she fought with injuries. The situation was urgent at that time, and there was no way. If she hadn't gone up, Langsing would definitely not be like this now. At the beginning, many of the barriers of Country H were shaky. If Xingqian hadn't come out to kill the enemy, would their hometowns, relatives, and friends be able to live and work in peace like they do now? But now that the threats have left, it's too much not to let people have a good rest. Whoever is strong will be unlucky, right? The person who proposed it was directly criticized by others after the meeting. There are too many people in this world who are selfish, but fortunately most of them have a conscience. Based on Miss Xingqian's previous heroic achievements, she will eat, drink, play, and sleep for the rest of her life. Even if she lies in bed without moving a finger, Langsing should support her. This sentence was a comment posted by a netizen, and it was liked by hundreds of millions in a short period of time, proving that everyone agrees with Xingqian's efforts in their hearts. Soon someone said, "This statement is unlucky," as if the sister is paralyzed. The host quickly accepted it and changed the statement. But most people directly liked it and then replied below, "I want to eat, drink, play, sleep with the little sister, sign up to serve the little sister, etc." And soon the post went astray. Yes, the propaganda department has officially announced the Mecha information of Xingqian and others. Except for the name, photo and other private information, all the basic information is posted on the official website. Height, weight, age, birthday, place of origin, expertise, hobbies, etc. All Langsing people know that Xingqian's driver is a woman. There is also a source for the joke about eating, drinking, playing, and sleeping. When Lin Fan returned to the Special Affairs office and re-applied for information, she didn't know what to fill in the hobby column, so she casually wrote eating, drinking, playing, and sleeping, and then it was directly moved up by the propaganda department. When Lin Fan saw it, she was extremely embarrassed and was thinking about whether to contact Zhu Kunjin to change it for her. Wu Yusen persuaded her that it was okay because no one could contact her anyway, and her hobby was down to earth. Lin Fan thought about it, and it was right. Anyway, no one knew it was her. If she changed it, the procedures would be very troublesome, so forget it. Sure enough, after seeing that Xingqian's hobbies were eating, drinking, playing, and sleeping, everyone thought they were wrong at first. Other Mecha brothers have shooting, reading, boxing, fighting, traveling. These are very serious hobbies. Why is Miss Xingqian just eating, drinking, playing, and sleeping? So they all add the official website, and the official website replied that it was correct. Netizens laughed. Young people think that the hobbies of the Mecha masters are the same as those of ordinary people like me. The older ones are like seeing their own children who have no ambitions. Originally, most people were grateful and admired for Xingqian, but because of this hobby that was not worth mentioning, Xingqian suddenly seemed to be less high and mighty and became approachable. When talking about other mechas, they were all Fu Feng Dada and Jinggang Dada. When it came to Xingqian, there were many more people who called her little sister than Xingqian Dada. I don't know if it was because they knew that Xingqian was a female and had a natural gentle effect, or if it was because her special hobby was a blessing in disguise. Countless people left messages on the official website recommending hometown food, fun games, and even mattresses to Xingqian. Anyway, what Lin Fan had worried about before did not happen. Instead, everyone treated her as their own daughter and sister. Anyway, all kinds of support. Occasionally, some discordant voices came out, but they were automatically defended and sprayed away by netizens. That kind of intimacy was not expected by even the people in the propaganda department. So the public now prefers to play badly rather than work hard? The Minister of Propaganda scratched his Mediterranean and finally attributed the reason to the preconceived sense brought by Xingqian's combat effectiveness. But Lin Fan didn't know much about this. When things fermented, she was 800 worried about Song Ren. The short videos were all about praising Mechas in fancy ways, or videos of him being miserable, which she didn't want to watch. The news was all about bad things, which she didn't want to hear. So most of the time, she was playing games to kill time. Anyway, if there was something important, Wu Yusen and the others would definitely notify her. And now, Lin Fan didn't know that she had become a national favorite on the internet, and she was standing in ZHU Kunjan's office with a dazed look on her face. Come on, sit down first, sit down and talk. ZHU Kunjan asked Wu Yusen to pull him to the sofa, and he sat down too. Is it the unidentified flying object before Gro left? Lin Fan woke up as soon as his bed touched the sofa, and the first thing he thought of was a strange flying object. What kind of operation is it to come and go? It can't be that he took the wrong road, right? Parading in space is not like on the road. There are 2 asteroid belts in the Milky Way, so it's not that easy to get in and out. Since he has come near the moon, he must have come here on purpose. Could it be that Gro is back again? Wu Yusen was worried about another possibility. Although Gro fled before, but its huge size and speed when it escaped are good proof that it still has some strength left. If it reacts, the black hole is just their last trick, and it may come back with a surprise attack. Lin Fan's eyes widened immediately, and he looked at Wu Yusen with a bitter face. No way. Although the barrier is open now, Gro may not be able to do anything, but just stopping outside can make all their space development abort. It was so hard to drive it away. Don't let it really happen again. Chapter 645, Langsing United Alliance. In fact, strictly speaking, Langsing has entered the interstellar era since Gro entered the solar system. It's just that, because of its own hardware science, this intuitive feeling is not obvious enough. What does the interstellar era have? Spaceships, space travel, all kinds of high tech that can be mentioned and imagined. But Langsing currently has none of them. It is like a poor little thing that was dragged onto this high-level track by Gro. It is trembling with self-protection and is in danger. It wishes no one would notice it so that it can take the opportunity to hide and develop. But recently, everything has not been going well. Although the Gro crisis has been resolved, the price paid by Langsing is not small. Old Khan is still lying in the running water and has not opened his eyes yet. The reconstruction work on the ground has just begun. In some places, people are still crowded in tents to receive relief food. Although the female clown's barrier can defend, it can only defend. I don't know how advanced the opponent's technology is. If they launch an attack, I don't know whether the barrier can successfully resist. The only combat forces that can be brought out on Langsing are probably Xingqian, Apollo, Lezingguan King and Master Kai and Su. But the latter is not easy to control. Even if they give face and go on the field, they cannot leave the air environment for a long time. Casting spells inside Langsing will be blocked by the barrier, and the result is that the spell cannot be successfully released. Xingqian can go to space, and Apollo should be able to do so. But can they just let the 2 of them fight alone outside? It is still unknown how many people and how powerful the opponent is. But if there is another one as big as Gro, no matter how powerful the 2 mechas are, they will not be able to withstand it. The United Alliance, which was still arguing and fighting for the interests of all parties, was quickly formed because of this sudden unexpected situation. There is no way. As the only 2 resistance forces on Langsing, P country is not completely unclear about the situation. He only has Apollo in his hands, and the big deal depends on H country. What can he do if he doesn't recognize it? I thought the fight was over, so I made some noise and struggled to gain more benefits, and the good guys were too embarrassed to lose face with them. As the saying goes, a shameless person is invincible. Country P is a professional in throwing tantrums and being unreasonable. Unexpectedly, something unexpected happened in space. In this situation, only a fool would fight with Country H. Country P suddenly changed its usual behavior and praised Country H highly, hoping to set it up. Once something happened, it would let country H take the lead. It would be best if country H was also severely damaged after the opponent was driven away. By then, hehehe. How could country H not guess the sinister thoughts of country P? What he thinks is not important. What is important is what they can get. The old man and the big secret team formulated a strategy overnight and sent out the agreement before dawn the next day. Seeing that the upper echelons of country P looked unhappy, but had to agree to the conditions, everyone felt as comfortable as drinking an iced drink in the hot summer. Momentum is something that will not be much left if it is suppressed. Country P thought it was bearing humiliation and pretending to be submissive, but in fact it had already lost its voice as an international hegemon. Over time, everyone would get used to country P's subordinate status. If it wants to turn over again, will it be so easy with country H's 5 fingers mountain pressing down on it? In addition to country P, other countries that requested asylum also received their own terms. Country G, which was originally quite friendly, was fine, and the terms were relatively mild, equivalent to mutual benefit or friendly assistance. Since we were not meant to be treated that way, there was no need to be so polite. You want my assistance, you want my asylum, well, return the cultural relics that you stole from me first. You should apologize if you should, and pay compensation if you should. We will talk about it after we have done enough. During the general offensive, some cultural relics were inevitably destroyed, but many of them are fortunately still preserved. And because of the special nature of some cultural relics, they were all preserved with moisture-proof and shatter-proof means, and some museums are relatively hard stone buildings. After the war, many people outside the country even posted short videos to promote the fact that these ancient buildings were solid, not destroyed, and the cultural relics inside were well preserved. Now they want to deny it, but they can't. Can they willingly give it up? Of course not. These bandits, if you rob things and put them in their homes, it's as if they really belong to them. They don't have any shame. But now, they urgently need the resources of H country to help quickly carry out livelihood relief work. H country, which used to be a good guy, has bitten its tongue and refused to let go this time. If you don't pay it back, I'll play with you. Thinking about the strange methods of H country, everyone is discouraged. Although other people's things are good, they are nothing compared to people's livelihood and political power. So, the apology statement was issued, the debt agreement was signed, and the return of the items was promoted across the board. Before Lin Fan came back, the experts who were connected had already flown to various countries to get the things back as soon as possible. No matter what, the United Alliance of Lansing was officially established. In order to unify the remaining capabilities, all available areas, materials, and combat power of Lansing were unified. Many G countries have almost zero supplies and combat power, and their political power is almost empty. They are subsidized by H country in the United Alliance, and the right to speak is directly handed over to H country. P country, E country and other big countries are slightly better, but in the absence of combat power, although they have the right to speak, they can't play a big role in front of H country, which is rich, has abundant personnel, and has almost no losses. Moreover, E country has always been on good terms with H country, and P country has a wretched mind. On the surface, it has become H country's one-man show. Even if many forces are unhappy, they can only shut up in the face of absolute strength. What's more, from the surface, there is nothing wrong with H country's decision. You say H country's plan is not good. If you can do it, you can do it. Who can do this? They can only shut up, just like P country, secretly drawing villains and cursing, hoping that H country will overturn soon, and they can turn over. Later, when people studied it, they found that the United Alliance of Lansing weakened the concept of the G family, dispersed the administrative power into regional administrative power, and gradually integrated it into a global alliance from this time. But at this moment, the Gs of different sizes, who had their own thoughts, had not discovered this clue. After the United Alliance was hastily and formally established, the first thing it dealt with was the abnormal magnetic field fluctuations in space. This was discovered by a radio telescope, and the location was close to Mars. The current location of Mars is not close, about 60 million kilometers away from Lansing. So from the perspective of distance, even if the opponent jumps in space and appears next to Mars, it will not pose a direct close-range threat to Langsing like Grow. Such a long distance gives everyone enough buffer time. Although there is a sense of crisis, everyone is not as nervous as before. In the Alliance, think tanks of various countries are working hard to discuss and study various contingency plans. They want to increase the voice of the G family they represent. This also includes discussing whether it is possible that Grow has gone and returned. In the end, most people think that the possibility is not high. The scene of the black hole sucking Grow, let alone Grow, was frightened enough when they watched the broadcast inside Langsing. At the beginning, more than half of the ship had been dragged in. If the barrier had not been suddenly blocked and the black hole had not shrunk, it is hard to say what Grow would look like now. In this situation, he escaped death and made a space jump. No matter psychologically or energetically, it should be impossible for him to come back in a short time. After all, they cannot know that the black hole maker is no longer able to move. Originally, only 4/5 of his body was left. He consumed so much combat power and made 2 space jumps. He just narrowly escaped death. Everyone saw how panicked he was when he escaped. How likely is it that he would come back to test again? Everyone put themselves in his shoes, and almost everyone thought it was impossible. Could it be the spaceship that came and went before? The Alliance has been set up, and then Country P can only do things secretly. Chapter 646. 2 Modes of Barrier. ZHU Kunjin made T4 Lin Fan and the others with a smile. The current situation was actually quite tense, but a senior leader like him could not show his nervousness on his face. No matter how difficult it was, he had to keep it in his heart. Otherwise, if they panicked, what would the people below do? Look at Lin Fan. She was as nervous as a newcomer. Fortunately, she had no one under her, otherwise the entire mobile unit would have been led by her to be gloomy. Lin Fan, this little girl, is still young. ZHU Kunjin sighed in his heart. But there is nothing wrong with it. If they were all like this, it would be too hypocritical. Lin Fan drank a sip of hot tea, and the warm taste went down his throat, as if it really soothed the uneasiness in his heart. What ZHU Kunjin said were all things that had not been made public, including the establishment of the United Alliance and the new crisis. If she was not about to participate in it, he would not let her know. Is that the previous one? Lin Fan thought that his brain was not smart enough, so he simply did not spend that time analyzing it randomly and listen to the answer of smart people directly. They are not sure either. ZHU Kunjin leaned back on the sofa, smiled and shook his head. They think that space jumps should consume a lot of energy. The radio telescope did detect their departure before. This coming, leaving, and coming again. It's not fun. His hand touched the cigarette box in his pocket, and he took it out again when he thought of Lin Fan. But since we don't know how much energy it takes to jump once, everything is based on our inference. Assuming that jumping once consumes a huge amount of energy, then the one coming this time should not be the same as before. It's not that no one has discussed the fact that the spaceship came and ran away last time, but there is really no conclusion to the discussion. It's impossible that they were scared when they saw Xingqian, right? Although Xingqian is powerful, she is also a single-person mecha. There is no reason for a spaceship that can jump in space to be scared and forced to leave from a distance, unless they have seen Xingqian before and are afraid of her power. But a spaceship that can travel in space will not be afraid of a single mecha, right? Or it may be injured, like Grow. After thinking about it, he couldn't guess the correct result. In addition, this conclusion is not very related to this crisis, so in the end, this issue was put aside. Assuming that the energy consumed by space jumps is not as much as we imagined, that's it? Lin Fan asked. It doesn't matter. They are all strangers to us anyway. ZHU Kunjin shrugged, still smiling. Compared to what, we are more concerned about its purpose. Is it friendly, or? Before ZHU Kunjin finished the last few words, Lin Fan understood immediately. The previous spaceship was just a glimpse. It didn't make much difference whether it was it or not. There was no point in getting entangled. The key point is what it is here for. If it is friendly and peaceful, that would be the best. The only thing to worry about is another Grow. but the other party came all the way here. Is it likely to be friendly? Interstellar exchanges don't seem to be much different from the exchanges between the G's on Langsing. Gro's arrival was purely to seize resources, so it was inevitable that it invaded Langsing. We can't say that all aliens are bad. There must be friendly ones, right? But with Langsing's level, why would aliens from the high-tech plane be friendly to them? Because aliens are kind by nature? Don't be naive, Lin Fan doesn't believe it. On Langsing, like each country, they are good guys. But there is only one G family that likes to help and support, and everyone is good to you. There are many countries like P country that see something good and find an excuse, or even no excuse to start fighting. Langsing is like this, let alone the Interstellar. Not to mention, each country's good guy behavior is not just good, but also has its own strategic significance under the surface actions. It is not impossible to make a high-tech spaceship friendly to the low-tech Langsing, but difficult. Putting aside the fact that the visitor is kind by nature, what kind of possibility can make the other party's original intention of aggression dispel? Only when Langsing's technological strength is equal to that of the other party will not benefit from fighting. Or there is something that makes the other party afraid, so the other party dare not take action, and will remain on the sidelines. But does Langsing have it now? No. It's dead. That is, there is a barrier of the ugly woman. Well, add 2 Mecha men, the eldest brother and the 1,000-year-old master. But can this matter really be solved by 4 people? Lin Fan pinched his fingers unconsciously with his fingernails. It's not easy. What did the ugly woman say? Wu Yusen listened for a long time and finally spoke. Originally, this task had nothing to do with Wu Yusen. But although Lin Fan had experienced many complicated events, she still lacked a lot of experience, so Wu Yusen was still her guide for the time being. When encountering some situations, he could give some advice and assist her, just like now. Yes, what did the ugly woman say? She knew, right? Lin Fan also asked. Of course, she told the ugly woman, as soon as possible. ZHU Kunjin replied, she didn't have any good solution for the time being, so she changed the barrier to defense mode again. Why wasn't the barrier originally in defense mode? Lin Fan asked curiously. Does it need to be changed? Yes, when it was first opened, wasn't it because of Gro? When it was opened, the defense mode was activated. ZHU Kunjin knew that Lin Fan didn't pay attention to these things normally, so he explained it patiently. But wasn't it stable a while ago? Then they were going to send a satellite up again. Seeing that there was nothing to worry about, the ugly woman changed the barrier to daily mode. We only found out that there were 2 modes after Zyojin came back. Jin Sichin is back. Wu Yusen interrupted and asked. He had always wanted Jin Sichin to talk to Lin Fan. She came back, but left again, just after the ugly woman changed the barrier. ZHU Kunjin replied, the daily mode does not require the ugly woman to watch, and it can circulate independently, but the strong defense mode requires the ugly woman to sit under the tree and guard, and adjust the energy strength at any time. So Zyojin went back to help her. Although Jin Sichin did not have any special abilities, as the ugly woman's closest plastic sister, she needed to stay by her side when she could not move, in case of various situations, and to get in touch with the outside world in time. When he came back, he was also thinking about Lin Fan. But at that time, Lin Fan was accompanying Song Ren in 800. Jin Sichin knew that Song Ren had an important meaning in Lin Fan's heart, so he did not disturb him rashly. I wanted to wait a while before I could talk about it, but I didn't expect that. Before anyone came back, I went back to guard the ugly woman. I thought the barrier was closed after it was used up, but it wasn't. Lin Fan asked. Wouldn't it consume energy all the time? Would the ugly woman agree? After the barrier was connected into a whole piece, except for the obvious light effects at the beginning, they were almost gone later. Except for the vicinity of the light column, where the energy was still sufficient and visible at a glance, other places could not be seen with the naked eye. Jin Sichin said that the roots of the world tree have spread all over the underground of Langsing. The energy column that rises into the sky is equivalent to its trunk, and the membrane on the top is equivalent to the crown. there is constantly energy, which is the spiritual power we sense, scattered from the top, scattered in the air, and then absorbed by the ground, forming a natural cycle. So the daily mode is a self-circulation mode, which is also the final form that the world tree should have grown into. It is a form that is integrated with Langsing, and Nvchao can completely let it go. But the defense mode is different. Its extra energy needs Nvchao's support and control, so once it switches to defense mode, Nvchao must sit under the tree and cannot move. So this is why Nuwa left Nvchao behind to guard Langsing. Chapter 647 Zhu Kunjin's Yearning. How was the satellite launched? Lin Fan asked again. She originally thought that it was a satellite launched after the barrier was closed, but now it is obviously not. A little bit of world tree energy is added to the launched satellites and rockets, just like a barrier pass, which can penetrate the barrier by itself without affecting the barrier effect. Zhu Kunjin was not too surprised by this. After all, they had similar spells. Lin Fan thought that he seemed to have the energy of the world tree in his body. Could he also penetrate the barrier directly? If the ugly woman can't do anything, we can only wait. Wu Yusen didn't like this result, but the strength was here, and he didn't like it. The ugly woman didn't say it directly, but from what Jin Sichin said, the ugly woman's main ability is still protection. Others may not be able to break through the barrier, but attacking this part. Zhu Kunjin shook his head slowly and smiled bitterly. We can't expect all the benefits, right? It's good to have a barrier to guard. Besides, the ugly woman's barrier. Let's not talk about defense first. At least these scattered spiritual powers have brought us a lot of benefits. After the barrier was opened, Gro was scared away by the black hole. Therefore, the actual defensive effect was not really shown. On the contrary, the internal strangulation was very smooth. But to a greater extent, because of the deployment of the barrier, they felt at ease, no longer in a state of panic, and no longer afraid of this and that. Even now, they still don't know what the unknown visitor is, but because the barrier of the ugly woman is defending, although they are worried, they are far less anxious than Gro before. And for the supernatural people in the Special Affairs Office, the benefits are huge. The spiritual power floating everywhere in the air makes them feel like travelers thirsty for water in the desert suddenly encounter a stream, and they are so happy that they can't help themselves. Many people have made breakthroughs in their cultivation when they were guarding the grocery store for money. Even Zhu Kunjin himself, who has no time to practice recently, feels that his supernatural level is rising, and he is about to break through the threshold of the previous level. How great is this? In addition, there is a report below that, because of the increase in spiritual power in the air, the number of people who are sensitive to spiritual power has increased. This group of people can embark on the path of cultivation with a little guidance. The improvement of individual strength also represents the improvement of group quality, which will be combat effectiveness in the future. He wrote proposals for several nights in a row, and pushed hard, and finally got the superiors to approve the plan of the training academy. From then on, in addition to academic, military, and scientific research paths, the people of Langsing had another way out. Zhu Kunjin seemed to have seen the great leap in the overall strength of the Special Affairs Office. They no longer had to hide underground and conceal their identities for fear that ordinary people would see strange scenes. Zhu Kunjin was happy when he thought of this. While his favor for the ugly woman doubled, he did not forget to curse Kuafu 10,000 times. If it weren't for that old thief, the world tree would have opened long ago. 5,000 years of time. The spiritual energy on Langsing is definitely not comparable to the current tiny energy. The development of science and technology must be different. Although it may not be able to suppress Gro, it is better than being beaten helplessly like now. Kuafu, that old thief. Bah. Lin Fan and Wu Yusen are not sensitive bodies. Except for the initial materialization of spiritual power that they saw, they did not feel any special difference. So naturally, they could not understand Zhu Kunjin's joy. But thinking of the punk cultivation mentioned before, they could both try to learn this systematic and scientific cultivation method, and they were a little excited. And one of the pilot projects proposed in Zhu Kunjin's report was to guide ordinary people who were most exposed to unnatural events in the Special Affairs Office to enter the path of cultivation in a new environment. Although the sensitive body may be more sensitive to spiritual power than ordinary people, these special agents of the Special Affairs Office are very familiar with cultivation, and it is not necessarily impossible to cultivate, even if the spiritual power is slightly poor. Moreover, as experienced people, once they successfully enter the cultivation system, the knowledge and experience they have learned from their previous interactions with superpowers will accelerate their cultivation progress. For example, Lin Fan, she cannot sense the existence of spiritual power in the air, but she has electricity in her body. If guided, purely controlling lightning, what is the difference between it and a superpower who can control lightning attributes? Even because of her combat experience and familiarity with lightning, she will be more familiar with and use this superpower. That is not considered a superpower faster. On the contrary, as a pure white piece of paper, a novice needs all kinds of guidance. The speed of cultivation may not be faster than this, and it may not be possible to quickly get started during the mission. Cultivation is not a matter of 1 + 1 = 2. Talent and diligence are indispensable, and a physique that is naturally friendly to spiritual power is only the first shortcut. Cultivation is a very hard thing. It does not mean that, if you can sense spiritual power, everything will go smoothly. There are difficulties at every stage. People who cultivate are fighting with themselves. Not only must they be able to endure hardships, but also loneliness. It is not just a physical struggle, but also a mental struggle. Usually, efforts may not necessarily lead to obvious results, which is much more difficult than those in the military. Nowadays, living conditions are so good that children at home are all little emperors. They are afraid of dropping them if they are held in their hands, and they are afraid of melting them if they are held in their mouths. Not many people are willing to let their children go to the military. They all want to take shortcuts. How many of them can really embark on the road of cultivation? I'm afraid there are not many. Zhu Kunjin knows everything in his heart, but the road to heaven is already in front of him. How can he be willing not to give it a try? After all, it must be better than the current situation, right? At least they don't have to hide. Lin Fan bit his lip. Chao said that the barrier will not be broken, which is good news. What can this prove? It proves that the barrier's technological content is higher than Grow. What is this concept? The technological content of the things left by Noah 5,000 years ago is higher than Grow's current technology. If Chao is so confident, does it mean that it is not just Grow, but maybe higher than most alien technologies? After 5,000 years, has Nuwa and their technology developed to an unimaginable level? When Lin Fan raised this question, Zhu Kunjin was also stunned. In their hearts, they are still unsure about Chao's barrier. Whether it is strong or not, they will know when it is really hit. Chao boasted that the barrier will not be broken, but she slept for thousands of years and didn't know what was happening outside. Is what she said really accurate? Everyone wants to believe it, but no one dares to believe it completely. The think tank has been making various contingency plans for the barrier to be broken, although the contingency plans are of little use. Some even suggested that, if the barrier is found to be ineffective, the barrier should be removed, and the wolf should be led into the house, and then the barrier should be closed, and the dog should be beaten behind closed doors, because they can see the strangling power within the barrier. However, this proposal was opposed by most people. Once the barrier is opened, it is unknown what will happen. Moreover, Langsing has just begun to repair after the war, and it cannot withstand another destruction. Where should the wolf be led to? Many G families are already desolate, with only a few people left. We can't make things worse, right? Each country is fine, but as the first person in charge, how could the old man allow the land that he has protected well to be violated? This proposal was rejected in one sentence, and it was not worth thinking about. Although a few well-intentioned G families felt sorry, they also knew in their hearts that it was easier to invite a god than to send him away, and this proposal was really not a good one. What if the dog was beaten behind closed doors and sent themselves out instead of being beaten behind closed doors? That would be bad, so they did not struggle anymore. The matter was discussed in a stalemate, and there was no result. After going back and forth, I made many plans and thought about the worst case scenarios countless times, but I still couldn't find a breakthrough. But I didn't expect that Lin Fan, with his full trust, would find a way out of the dead end from another angle. Sometimes I can't figure out a solution, and then someone else says something inadvertently, and it works. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 648 Concept Fusion. If the enchantment of the ugly woman really doesn't work, basically, no matter what contingency plan is made on Langsing, it's useless. It's just a matter of how long the struggle lasts, and how many people can survive in the end. ZHU Kunjin looked at Lin Fan steadily, and she felt that something was wrong with her face or body, and she wiped her face, and lowered her head to tidy up her clothes. What's wrong with me? Finally, she turned to ask Wu Yusen, but she only got a shake of her head. We have always regarded the enchantment as an enchantment. ZHU Kunjin's eyes flickered, but we never thought that it is also a product of technology. Lin Fan looked at Wu Yusen. What did the director mean by this? Wu Yusen thought about it and roughly understood. Because it is from the perspective of superpowers, in our view, the enchantment is a kind of superpower, and no one has ever associated it with technology. Lin Fan blinked. I don't understand. Isn't the technology tree a product of technology? How can the enchantment it creates not be a product of technology? Yes, how can it not be? ZHU Kunjin smiled and patted the armrest of the sofa. Lin Fan, you are so nice. Lin Fan still looked puzzled. Why did he suddenly praise her? Looking at Wu Yusen for help. It's just a habit. Wu Yusen explained with a smile. We usually come into contact with superpowers, so when we identify barriers as superpowers, we will naturally separate them from technology. But we actually know that the technology tree is a product of technology. We have both of these perceptions in our minds, but they are not integrated. On the contrary, you have a vague concept in this regard, and think that there is no contradiction or conflict between barriers and technological products, but it is a blessing in disguise. Lin Fan tilted his head. Didn't Mr. Khan say that cultivating immortals is also a scientific way of exercise? The first time she saw an immortal was really a big shock to her, so that she couldn't forget that scene and that sentence until now. Yes. Cultivating immortals is also a scientific way of exercise. Cultivating immortals is also a scientific way of exercise. ZHU Kunjin smiled and clapped his hands. Isn't the so-called science a systematic and theoretical explanation of the whole process? In this way, cultivating immortals does have a system, or theory, and it also strengthens the body, so how can it not be a scientific way of exercise? ZHU Kunjin also heard such remarks for the first time, but at the moment, he felt that it was perfect. Since he accepted the concept that the barrier was a product of technology, the goddess status of the ugly woman naturally changed. Since she can clearly talk about space jumps, she must know it, or even have seen it. ZHU Kunjin touched his chin and analyzed. In addition to her shuttle, the shuttle is likely to have the function of space jumps. Wu Yusen continued. Yes. ZHU Kunjin clapped his hands with his fists. So she is not nervous, and she is sure that the barrier will not be broken. She has long seen that the technological level of the barrier is higher than that of Grow and the unknown visitor now. In other words, the technological level contained in the technology tree is very high. The more ZHU Kunjin thought about it, the more he believed this, and his mouth was raised high. Lin Fan was complaining on the side, saying that it was impossible. Anyway, she couldn't win, so could she run away on the shuttle in the end? But seeing that ZHU Kunjin was so happy, she couldn't say such a disappointing thing. But the opponent hasn't appeared yet. How can the ugly woman be sure that the opponent's technological content is not as good as the barrier? Wu Yusen asked in confusion. Well, ZHU Kunjin's smile froze. Maybe space jumps are also divided into levels? This kind of jump can only be limited to a certain level of technology. Lin Fan raised his hand and replied. It's possible. ZHU Kunjin smiled again. It's very likely. He stood up, walked out of the single sofa, and paced back and forth in front of the sofa, with a more and more joyful look on his face. Should we ask the ugly woman? Lin Fan felt that so far, these were all their guesses. Speculations about this thing, may be true or not. It's best to ask the person involved. Zhu Kunjan's smile froze, his feet stumbled, and he staggered forward. Fortunately, his lower body was stable. He stopped in time and cleared his throat. Well, I'll call Zhao Jin later. The ugly woman didn't care about time, place, or people when she was fierce. Zhu Kunjan also wanted to save face. It would be best if he could avoid it in front of others and have one less person present. Wu Yusen heard the elegant meaning from the strings and asked, "Then director, do you have anything else to tell us? If not, we'll leave first." Zhu Kunjan was holding the phone and thinking about how to ask about this matter. He waved his hand without looking back. "Let's go." After the two stood up, he turned back and reminded them, "Lin Fan, don't leave the institute recently. The situation in the sky needs to be closely monitored. I don't know when I need you." "Okay director, I got it." Lin Fan had already figured it out in her mind. She had said so much just now, just to talk about the unknown visitor. "I'm not going anywhere. I'll go to the cafeteria to eat." Zhu Kunjan was actually still concerned about Lin Fan's injury, but at this time, if Xingchen had to go out, there was nothing he could do, and he could only let her eat more. Go, eat well." "Okay." Lin Fan agreed with a smile and went out with Wu Yusen one after another. As soon as the office door was closed, she stopped laughing immediately, bowed her head and sighed. "What's wrong?" Wu Yusen saw her expression change in a second and knew what she was worried about. He was afraid that she would feel uncomfortable if she kept it in her heart, so he told her to speak out. "It's just always uneasy." Lin Fan pouted and dragged her feet forward. "Maybe nothing happened. Don't worry." Wu Yusen reached out and touched the back of her head. The woolen hat was furry, like touching a puppy. "I hope they are here to travel." Lin Fan rolled her eyes. "Do you believe it?" Wu Yusen touched the tip of his nose and smiled without saying anything. "If I were an alien, I would come to Langsing to travel." "What kind of travel would I want?" "The original ecology." Lin Fan's head was a little itchy, so she reached out and scratched it through the hat. What if they just like the original ecology? Wu Yusen knew that her hair had grown a lot, but it was all stubble, and it was really easy to itch when it was stuck with the fur on the hat. "Forget it. I won't think about it. I have a crow brain, so I can't think about it. Whatever you want." Lin Fan scratched his hands roughly, feeling very frustrated. It was not the first time that Wu Yusen heard her talk about crow brains. He did not try to persuade her. He went up to her, put his arm around her shoulders, and pulled her up. "Okay, Minister Lin, don't think about these troublesome things. Let's go eat and have some fun first." Although Lin Fan could not taste the food, she still felt happy when she ate. What's more, she didn't have to pay to eat in the cafeteria, and she didn't get fat. It was just extremely pleasant. When they arrived at the cafeteria, the chefs naturally served countless delicious food. Lin Fan didn't complain about it this time. She was afraid that she would have to go up again at some point, so she accepted everything. The more the better. She didn't say anything and just buried her head in eating. Guess, will he fight or not this time? Chapter 649 Lin Fan's Heartache. After Zhu Kunjan was scolded by the ugly woman, he got the confirmed news, which made the high-level officials of Country H feel relieved. The news was synchronized within the alliance. Unlike Country H, other forces knew everything about the ugly woman and the world tree. The information they knew about the barrier was half truthfully told to them by Country H. They found it incomprehensible to the actions of Country H, and they did not believe the conclusion that the barrier would definitely not be broken. But Country H did not care about them, whether they believed it or not. What could they do? Putting aside the security issue, they started to discuss the next topic directly. When the barrier cannot be broken, then whether the external forces are friendly or not is almost no threat to Langsing. Even if the other party has similar goals to grow, it cannot have any impact on Langsing with the barrier. As long as it cannot get in, they can stay outside, as long as they want. They took the opportunity to develop scientific and technological productivity in the barrier with peace of mind, and they would not delay either. No matter how powerful the other party is, the spacecraft still needs energy support to operate or park in space. After a long time, the spacecraft that cannot get energy replenishment will eventually face only one result. The planetary advantage of laxing is thus revealed. So why do these aliens invade and occupy planets everywhere in the interstellar era? Plundering energy is one aspect, and they also need to find a transit point. The lifespan of laxing is roughly estimated to be 4.5 billion years. As long as they can ensure that the barrier of the ugly woman is not broken, there is no need to be afraid, even if there are spaceships outside. Just see who can outlast the other. As for the development of space, it is not difficult. Not to mention that so many things in the technology tree need time for them to digest slowly. When they have thoroughly understood it, they will start with the internal upgrade of laxing. Space-related ones will be manufactured and not sent to space first. When the external threat leaves, they will be sent to space. It is not impossible to do it in one step. So at present, the most important thing is development. Do you want to keep up with the development of science and technology and not fall behind? Do you want to see the latest high-tech research materials? The representative of country H took out several advanced scientific research materials that have been quite fruitful. Seeing the eager eyes of the major forces, even her breathing changed. She knew in her heart that this time she would have to take control again. After Lin Fan knew the policy from above, she relaxed completely. It's better not to fight. She is a little afraid of fighting now. Although she has experienced a lot, how can I say it? Maybe it's really ignorance and fearlessness. People who have not experienced it have more courage to move forward. She has been relaxing well recently, and she doesn't think about those scenes of corpses and blood very often. But when she thinks about fighting, her first reaction is still those. During the time she went to 800 to accompany Song Ren, she actually thought a lot. Compared with those who lost their lives, compared with people like Song Ren who were deeply injured and affected their lives, she had healthy hands and feet, could eat and drink. What was there to be hypocritical about? Just like this, with the transition of time, there was not much pressure in daily life, and the multiple functions of Kine Leo's bracelet, many painful feelings gradually faded. Sure enough, time is a panacea that can alleviate all the impossibilities in the world. Now, as long as she doesn't talk about fighting, Lin Fan feels that she is still a normal person. But when it comes to fighting, she feels her head is full of red noisy images come flooding back. She is panicking, always having the urge to retreat. But in fact, she is very sure that when she is really needed, she will definitely rush forward without hesitation. It seems that there are two different selves in her head. Could it be schizophrenia? Lin Fan feels that she may have climbed out of one pit and jumped into another pit of illness. Oh my god, I'm not really split, am I? The days when Jin Sichin is not around. I miss him. Lin Fan collapsed on the sofa for a long time. Her mind was full of imagination, and she thought of countless terrible developments. In the end, she decided to send a message to Jin Sichin for help. Jin Sichin's communication method has always been open to Lin Fan. It's just that Lin Fan doesn't want people to know that she has a problem in her heart, for fear that people close to her will worry. After all, once she contacts Jin Sichin, her psychological report will be submitted to ZHU Kunjin's computer within 12 hours, and then Wu Yusen will definitely know. Going further up, those people in 623, or the old man, might all know. Moreover, she felt that she had learned a lot from Jin Sichin, and should be able to relieve it independently. In short, there were various reasons, so she had not contacted Jin Sichin. As for Jin Sichin, he knew Lin Fan. Knowing that she was a tough girl, he would naturally not be overly considerate. Adults have to walk their own paths, no matter how difficult it is. However, he did not completely ignore it. He also privately asked Wu Yusen and others about Lin Fan's recent situation. After weighing it, he felt that there was no big problem, so he did not force intervention. Lin Fan's message came later than he expected, and the content was not much different from what he expected. It was just that Jin Sichin didn't know whether to laugh or cry about the possibility of schizophrenia she raised. He saw the ugly woman sitting under the world tree playing a handheld game console and was having fun. He walked to the entrance of the cave with a silent phone and whispered a voice message to Lin Fan. Your condition is not schizophrenia, but post-traumatic stress disorder. It is the mental stress caused by a sudden disaster. One of the main symptoms is what you are showing now, which is called trauma re-experiencing. Jin Sichin knew about the scene that Lin Fan had dealt with before. He had obtained the permission to watch the video in the subway. Even though he was a psychology expert, he felt extremely uncomfortable when he saw the mass killings that had happened before. Not to mention that Lin Fan had never killed a chicken before, and he faced these things directly. Any normal person would be affected by such a sudden disaster, not to mention that Lin Fan's mental state was not particularly stable. Her will was relatively strong, but her mental state was relatively fragile, and she was easily hit hard. Lin Fan's performance before and after entering the subway was enough to explain the problem. In addition, she fought non-stop and witnessed destruction and death. Lin Fan's mental state was very worrying to Jin Sichin. But afterwards, she behaved very normally. This made Jin Sichin feel worried. Even professional military personnel like Song Ren would feel uncomfortable after the war, and there were special psychologists to help them relieve their psychological problems. Lin Fan is an ordinary girl without the outer shell of Xingqian. She only became more courageous during the mission of the Special Affairs Office. How could she withstand such a scene? It is normal to have stress disorder. If you have experienced all that and don't feel anything at all, that would be really worrying. Jin Sichin retrieved the video of the public area where Lin Fan appeared after the war. After careful observation, he found that she was hiding deep, and Wu Yusen and others could not find her, so he was relieved. Seeing that Lin Fan was in good condition, he did not take the initiative to intervene, but just waited quietly for Lin Fan to ask for help. Knowing that it was not schizophrenia, Lin Fan first breathed a sigh of relief. Then he asked again, is this problem serious? Can it be cured? Don't worry, there is Jin Sichin. Chapter 650. Everyone wants to cultivate immortality. Jin Sichin went through the professional terms in her mind, hiding all the bad ones, and replied in a relaxed tone. According to current statistics, the probability of an ordinary person being unable to be cured in their lifetime is only 4%. What are you afraid of with me here? In fact, it is not so easy to cure post-traumatic stress disorder, but such words cannot be said directly to the patient himself, which will increase the psychological burden on the other party. Judging from Lin Fan's symptoms, it is in the acute stage, and the symptoms are only trauma re-experience. There are no special symptoms in the body, and there is no numbness and avoidance in the mind. In addition, she has settled down in this period of time, and the symptoms are not so frequent. Depression, which often breaks out with stress disorder, did not have obvious symptoms this time, but only a little panic disorder appeared. For Jin Sichin, this is good news. Lin Fan's psychological adaptability has surpassed that of ordinary people. If it weren't for the excessive stimulation brought by the Grow incident, Lin Fan might not have developed stress disorder. What she has experienced, if it were an ordinary person, he would probably be in the hospital now. How can he be like her, pretending to be decent and no one can find out? With a little guidance through the phone, he would help Lin Fan sort out her feelings systematically when he returned. She would not even need to take medicine. This difficult time would definitely be overcome smoothly. Jin Sichin's professional and affirmative answer made Lin Fan forget all her worries. Lin Fan had personally verified his professionalism when she was treating depression before, so her wholehearted trust in Jin Sichin was beyond ordinary people. If Jin Sichin said it was okay, then it was definitely okay. The atmosphere instantly became cheerful. Jin Sichin guided the conversation subtly and guided her out of some of the problems in her current emotions. After hanging up the phone, Lin Fan felt that she was completely better. Well, not completely better, she still thought of unhappy scenes, but she was not as depressed as before and felt much more relaxed. Lin Fan's psychological report was submitted very quickly. During dinner, Wu Yusen looked at her differently than before, as if he was condemning Lin Fan's deception. Lin Fan could only pretend that she didn't understand and handed him a cup of milk tea with a silly smile. Come on, here's the new flavor in the cafeteria. Let me give it to you to try first. What else could Wu Yusen say? Fortunately, Jin Sichin said in her report that it was not a big problem, otherwise Wu Yusen would have picked her up and spanked her hard. He sighed secretly, pretending that nothing had happened, and took the milk tea and slurped it. This milk tea is still as sweet as ever. When Wang Fengfeng came, the meal was already halfway through. He hurriedly took the tray and sat over. Wu Yusen stacked the empty plates and made room for him on the table. Lin Fan, long time no see. Lin Fan looked up and thought about it. The last time he saw Wang Fengfeng was in the information room, when Gro had not yet left. He counted with his fingers, and it seemed like it had been nearly a month. And eating at the same table with Wang Fengfeng seemed like a thing of the past life. Wang Fengfeng has been really busy recently. It's rare to see Lin Fan, so he couldn't help but start gossiping again. Complaining about the fake allies of the United Alliance, talking about who in the institute has been upgraded, who has mutated, and talking about the Chinese New Year. No one had a good time on New Year's Day because the atmosphere was not good. After a month of Spring Festival, the whole country of H was in a festive mood, and it seemed that they were going to have some fun. Lin Fan then remembered the Chinese New Year and opened his phone to see that there were still 8 days. This year's Chinese New Year is in early February. Time flies so fast. Are you going home for the New Year? Wang Fengfeng asked while eating. Go back. Lin Fan put down the phone. If I don't go back, my mother won't let me go. She didn't have anything to do now, and she didn't need to stay in the institute. If there was something, she could get back in time. John Wu and Wang Fengfeng both laughed. They had experienced the power of Lin's mother. What about you? Wang Fengfeng asked John Wu. I'm going back, Wu Yusen said with a small half cup of milk tea in his hand. I'm still worried about my family because of what happened before. I have to go back to take a look. Although the city of H country was not damaged too much this time because of the protection of the small barrier. But knowing is different from seeing it with your own eyes. In addition, they rarely go home on weekdays. It's rare for them to go back to spend time with their families during the Chinese New Year. If there is no special situation, most people will go back to accompany their families during the Chinese New Year. I'm going back too. Wang Fengfeng lowered his head and drank a sip of soup. But I guess my mother will get tired of me within 3 days of my return. I'll come back then. He smiled, his face full of worry. Compared with the people who knew nothing, Wang Fengfeng, who had an overview of the situation in the information room, knew how dangerous the last attack was. He didn't have a close relationship with his family, but he couldn't help but want to go back this time. Also, I heard that the director has set up a supernatural academy, and the higher-ups have approved it. When supernatural powers are popularized and accepted, you don't need to be so shy. You can go home whenever you want. Wang Fengfeng said. That's not the case. Wu Yusen had thought about this problem a long time ago. In addition to superpowers, the Special Affairs Office also has a secret attribute, just like a spy. Without superpowers, they still have to hide their identities. Wang Fengfeng was stunned for a moment and replied. That's true. But it should be better than before, right? Maybe, anyway, it won't be worse than it is now, right? Wu Yusen smiled. After the video of using superpowers was exposed, the public's acceptance was very high, and many people asked how to get started with cultivating immortals. Thanks to the popularity of immortal cultivation literature in recent years, young people are so active. Many people in the Special Affairs Office also changed their name to Cultivating Immortals, even though they knew that this was not at all the same as the real cultivation of immortals that Kind Leo had. For the people in the Special Affairs Office, not having to deliberately hide their superpowers is already a very good improvement. People with superpowers don't have to worry about abnormal eyes, and the arrangement and cleanup work of the special service will be much easier. When the school starts in the office, will you sign up? Wang Fengfeng sat up and asked the two with interest. I want to go. I have to give it a try anyway. Go, why not? We'll both go. Wu Yusen also laughed. He thought of Xingqian fighting outside, and he felt tortured because of his limited ability. It's a rare opportunity to become stronger. How could he give up? Go, go, go. Lin Fan also laughed. Maybe I can be called Lin Xianren in the future. TSK, that doesn't sound good. Lin Xian's daughter? Wang Fengfeng asked. That doesn't sound good either. Lin Fan pouted in disdain. Several people were laughing and discussing the title when the phone on Lin Fan's table rang. Dingling, dingling, dingling. The familiar ringtone made the three people shut up at the same time, and they couldn't help but think of the person just mentioned. Looking down, who else could it be, if not Lin Ma? Lin Fan picked up the phone, and sure enough, it was the familiar loud voice, asking when he would go home for the new year. For Lin Ma and the others, this year seemed to be no different from last year. Even if the aliens had come, they would still celebrate the same. Lin Fan felt that things were not the same as they were yesterday, but was brought back to reality by Lin's mother's loud voice. She vaguely mentioned a date of return to evade Lin's mother, and after hanging up the phone, she wiped the sweat off her forehead and sighed. I thought Xingqian was already invincible. Wang Fengfeng suddenly spoke. Lin Fan looked up at him and saw him laughing. I didn't expect your mother to be the real invincible. Lin Fan also laughed. Lin's mother has no chance. If she had the opportunity to go to the battlefield, she would definitely be more powerful than her. After Lin Fan said this, the two laughed again. Wu Yusen also laughed beside him without saying a word, and the somewhat dull atmosphere just now was swept away. The Special Office's supernatural power cultivation is different from Qian Leo's cultivation of immortals. They are not the same thing. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.